you get, there's a hand to hold. Believe when your days down here are through you, there's a place. Good evening, folks. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Leroy, Wadix, Charles. I believe you are in the studio already, and the host of Popular Creole Heartbeat Show and the member of our Kudos to our Heroes Committee. Kelly the Ghost Williams supposed to be in there with you. I'm not sure I can see him yet, but I expect that, oh yes, Kelly the Ghost is there with you. And Kelly, of course, is the past president of the DCA and himself a prolific calypsonian in his time and a member of the original Naked Feet Band. And also, we expect that 9-time Calypso monarch Denison King Dice Joseph will represent Tin Pat Aaron, who could not be in the studio tonight, but is here with us online. So I'm hoping that Dice, if he's not there yet, will be joining us very shortly to the honors. And then, of course, Lambi is on the console directing the traffic. Lambi, how are you doing? And they're all in the studio at Q95. Pastor Rodney could not be with us tonight for a very good reason. So let me just say a special good evening indeed to all our esteemed, or very esteemed 17th Dominican National Hero Designate, Mr. Pat Aaron, your wife Annie, Aaron, and your 2 children. Pat, how are you doing? I hope all is well. We'll be talking shortly. Open your mic soon so you can have a word with the folks. I know many people are already gearing up online to be listening and to be watching you and picking you up and writing a lot of nice things about you. I'm pretty sure we'll be saying a lot of things about you ourselves this evening. So good evening to our Kudos to our Heroes Committee members, Dr. Simone Matthew in Georgia, who should be joining us shortly. Ms. Corinne Francis out there in San Francisco, Dr. Dion George in Georgia, Mr. Crispin Gregoire in New York, Mr. Ralph Alcindor also in Georgia, Wadix, of course, and Pastor Rodney in Dominica. A great evening to our Q95 team and our Q family listeners in every community in Dominica and globally. Good evening also to all of the wonderful folks who are with us on the virtual panel tonight. I expect Davidson Observer Victor should be here with us, who is the current DCA president and former Calypso monarch himself. Ms. Janice Williams, our Kudos committee member, aka in Calypso world as Swinging Janice. She's with us on panel. She too is a legendary female calypsonian who shattered the glass ceiling in her time. So Dr. Simone, of course, as we said, she's going to be here shortly with us. Also on panel, we have Derek Hunter St. Rose. I'm not sure he's still on his camera yet, but the Hunter is with us tonight, and we expect also Senator Gregory Caressa Rivera, past Calypso monarch and, of course, current government state minister. Mr. Zed Lloyd, a true patriot and a long-standing bosom buddy, and maybe even a protege of Pat Aaron, is there with us. And, of course, a bit later on, we will be either seeing or hearing from Mr. Vaughan James, former dynamic Calypso monarch, who went by the Calypso name of King Shaky. Shaky also will be representing here tonight. And I'm also delighted, of course, to welcome by telephone a little later on, reigning Calypso monarch Trilogy, who has positioned, I'm sure he has positioned himself. And in fact, when I listen to his songs, he's positioned himself to strongly defend his crown this coming Saturday, February 10, in the Grand Calypso Finals at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium, dubbed Calypso City for the season. Mr. Roy Shillingford, original member of the Naked Feet Band, Mr. Tim Durant, also an original member of Naked Feet, and the distinguished owner, of course, of the popular Dominican News Online publication for that night. He will be with us on the phone a little later on, making his contribution, and so will Mr. Ian Jackson, hopefully, who is himself a prolific Calypso songwriter, a distinguished author and a past president of the DCA, who must also be congratulated on the accomplishment of his daughter, Janae, an attorney at law who has recently been called to the bar you expect to hear great things from Janae in the justice system in Dominica and in the Caribbean by extension. They say the apple does not fall far from the tree, and certainly apples do not make oranges. But behind every successful daughter, I am sure there is a strong, encouraging mom and dad. And also on the telephone later on, we will have Mr. Daryl Bob, former Calypso monarch, and that former monarch also, JD. He should be joining us on the phone later on. We'll be calling, Lambie will be calling them in due course, and they will join us on the phone. So we are indeed, in fact, blessed tonight with lots of Calypso royalty. Now, let me say with absolute delight, Mr. Pat Aaron, you are indeed a very humble, a strong, a fearless, a resilient patriot. You were born in High Street in Roseau. You grew up on Glover Lane in Goodwill and in Mount Trust. We acknowledge your distinguished wife, Annie Aaron, your late dad, Benjamin Aaron of Collyhope, your late mom, Thora David Aaron of Roseau, your 2 children, and many nephews and nieces. We salute them all. Let me say also to our Dominican and worldwide Q family listeners, it is indeed another global event tonight. Messages already pouring in for Pat and from fans, from colleagues, from affiliates, from Q family listeners and beneficiaries at home and abroad. Everyone in the Q family is tuned in to Q95 right now and on our live audio at www.q95da.com, on all radio frequencies on QTV, on YouTube, and on Facebook at Q95 FM Radio, and on our many other streaming platforms like TuneIn, Radio Garden, among others. We see you, we salute you, we say a hearty good evening to each and every one of you. We are indeed honoring an unconstrained, highly distinguished patriot tonight, a Calypso writing luminary, a true patriot on the big station. I am absolutely thrilled and indeed privileged to say a very, very special good evening and to embrace our cherished listeners and viewers. Please join our live stream, like our pages, share the live on Facebook and YouTube at Q95 FM Radio and on several other streaming platforms. So tonight, my fellow Dominicans, our cherished and extended Q family listeners and friends of Dominica at home and abroad, as chairman of the Q95 Kudos to Our Heroes Committee, and on behalf, of course, of our entire committee, I feel honored indeed to present Mr. Pat Aaron to Dominica, to the region and to the world as our 17th Dominican national hero. So tonight we recognize, we honor and award a man whom we simply call Pat. And we place in the record his sacrifices, his aspirations, and his successes. Our 17th Dominican national hero designate is prolific Calypso songwriter, musician, a somewhat special category of Calypso singer, to put it mildly. And of course, tax-friend service business owner in New York. Pat got his early education at the Roseau Boys School. Then he went on to St. Mary's Academy, 1968-69, thereabouts. He worked at the office of J. Asvan and Company Limited as a costing clerk for several months before entering the public service in 1971, where he remained until 1977. He first worked at the Government Treasury Department, then at the Inland Revenue Division, for a total of 7 years in the government service. During those 7 years, Pat became a founding member of the popular band The Naked Feet, along with close friends Tim Durant, Kelly the Ghost Williams, Glenn John, Rogers Aaron, and Roy Shillingford. They were later joined by Calvin Richards, Franklin Constance, known more favorably as Ballhead. And as the band grew in popularity and stature, other members joined in, including Norman Dorrible. Somebody's mic is open. If you could just close your mic, it would be very helpful to take the feedback coming into the audio. And of course, Randy Aaron, Purcell Christian, Louis Butler, several others as the group grew from a combo to a full orchestra band. Archie James, Brian Shillingford, who were also part of that growing crew. A few other well-known musicians passed through that band, including the great Freddie Nicholas. During these 7 years, Pat had been writing songs for the band, including the very popular hit song, Tower of Love. During that same period, around 1977, Pat captured his first Calypso crown as a writer for the Mighty Zay. Everybody remembers the Mighty Zay. Was crowned as Calypso monarch in that year. In 1977, he left the government service, Pat left the government service, and he ventured out on his own with the mindset, of course, as Pat always has, to be self-employed, utilizing the skills and the talents which God had blessed him with. But Pat later migrated to the US. He determined, of course, to be his own boss. So he settled in New York and established his tax filing and form filling services titled Tax Friends, including immigration forms. For over 30 years, Tax Friends has been in operation. And during those 30 plus years, Pat has remained totally involved and immersed in calypso and music, especially songwriting for Dominica and for other Caribbean islands. So to date, his calypso songwriting has captured over 20 calypso crowns in Dominica and other winning positions in the region. King Dice, of course, who's here with us tonight, he will tell us something a little later on about 9 of those crowns in Dominica. And I'm pretty sure that King Dice has his eye on number 10, maybe. We'll soon find out, won't we? No pressure on Dice, just rooting for him. I'm sure you have heard enough to convince you that Pat Aaron truly deserves to be honored as a Dominican hero. But in addition to his valuable transformational lifelong works and accomplishments, Pat continues to bring out the best in others to work hard, true to their profession and to their country, to reach out to excellence and be dedicated to being the very best that they can be in whatever they set out to do. So kudos indeed to Mr. Pat Aaron and his family. He is a true Dominican hero for instilling a positive mental attitude that elevated and influenced dialogue. Somebody's mic is open. If you could mute your mic, we might not hear the nice puppy barking in the background. It's always nice to hear the puppies, but it's better to mute the mic so we don't interfere with the puppies' activities. So he's truly a Dominican hero for installing all this positive mental attitude and elevating, of course, and influence. He's elevated and influenced the dialogue on calypso music melody and lyrical content on so many fronts for over 45 years. And then, of course, for being just a great Dominican who demonstrates that each one of us, ordinary people, can do extraordinary things in whatever we set our minds to do. So we invite you, our cherished Q95 listeners, in every nook and cranny, in every community at home, in the region and globally, to join us in appreciating, in embracing, in celebrating, recognizing, awarding, and extending kudos to our 17th Dominican national hero, Mr. Pat Aaron. Rest assured, Pat, that will remain highly respected, admired, and cherished by all Dominicans abroad and by all at home in our nature island of the Caribbean. Why? For your exemplary performance in transcending self-interest, for going well over and beyond the call of duty and above and beyond normal demands and expectations of your profession, for commanding respect in society, for being a truly resilient pioneer in your work and in your occupation, for your patriotism, for your unique, indefatigable work ethic. The same thing we see about Lambi in the studio with us tonight. For your innovation, for your achievements, for your tenacity in the face of all of the challenges you encountered and endured in your lifetime, for your unparalleled, impactful leadership par excellence in Showdown Mass Camp, your highly productive and progressive community involvement, your collaborations and partnerships, and for your dedicated commitment to the democracy and the social and economic development of your country. For these and for many more reasons, Pat, the Q95 Kudos to Our Heroes Committee recognizes, appreciates, embraces, and awards you, Pat Aaron, as a champion, and we bestow upon you the very well-deserved and indeed well-earned esteemed title of a true Dominican national hero. So we all say kudos to our 17th Dominican national hero, Pat Aaron, your distinguished wife, your children, and other relatives, who stood steadfastly beside you through thick and thin. And it is the honor and delight of every member of the Kudos to Heroes Committee, of all of us Dominicans at home and abroad, and all of us in the Q family, to say to everyone everywhere, we know, we love, we respect Pat Aaron. And may the good Lord bless you, Pat, your wonderful family. May God bless all of the other Dominican national heroes whose works positively impact the lives of Dominicans and others everywhere, every day. So, on behalf of our Kudos to our Heroes Committee, and on behalf of every Dominican at home and abroad, thank you, Pat, for all that you have done and that you are still doing. We wish you Godspeed. We look forward to you continuing to inspire us for many more years to come. Thank you. May God bless your entire family very richly. And I now circle back to you, Wadek, to pay some initial tributes to Pat on behalf of our Kudos to Heroes Committee and on your own behalf, of course, right after DJ Shan, after Lambi runs a musical voice note tribute from former popular Calypso monarch, the Hurricane. I believe it is fitting for us to play that in Salsa Lambi. I hope you have that queued up. You can play that for us right now by the Hurricane, and then after that, Wadix can join us to make his opening remarks. Over to you, Lambi.
It will take a miracle to keep this country from falling. Yes, we know it, but we keep on stalling. Though the forces that divide us are not as strong as the bond that unite us. This miracle lies in the people's power. We can turn this country around, but first we must come together. But unity is our biggest challenge, because we have to change, and no one likes change. Tell them gunslingers, hurricane coming, unarmed but dangerous. My song is mightier than their guns. I'm unarmed but dangerous. I don't vex with anybody. No, no, no. I don't come to make enemies. I believe in live and let live. Every man must survive. Every mouth must feed. Mm. But when it comes to community and Dominican security, I don't compromise with nobody. I just chanting down openly. It's them and me. Me the hurricane. I come in again, again and again. I owe it all to you in all that I've been through. My victories and my triumphs too. I give it all to you. Thanks to all those who supported me, those who guided me and who challenged me. You forced me to bring out the best in me. Whoa, whoa. I owe it all to you in all that I've been through. So that I had to go, saying goodbye to Calypso and you is the hardest thing I ever do. What can I say? The songs said it all. Classic Calypso songs with quality. Lyrics for yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Hi, Calypso family. This is the hurricane. I come back again. Just want to join the voices here to big up my brother Pat Aaron, the musician. He deserves the accolade as a writer, composer of Calypso music for over 30 years. His contribution to the art form is commendable by all standards. I am lucky and privileged to have worked with the musician on some of my Calypso songs and performances in my Calypso time. He has a knack of writing songs that fits the personality and talent of the artist. We had this special chemistry. It's like he knew what I was thinking and he delivered like 100%. Sir Pat Aaron, or Pato as I used to call him, you are one in a million. You are one of a kind. And I hope you live on to write a million more songs. And yeah, you can also start writing The Return of the Hurricane. Ha ha, as a teaser. It's me, the Hurricane. I'm coming again, again and again.
All right. So Hunter, you heard that. So you know Hurricane is coming again. So you have to tell us what you're gonna do because now the Hurricane say coming back. We expect the Hunter to be back. But anyway, I think that was very nice. I hadn't heard Hurricane for quite a while, so it was very refreshing to hear Hurricane. So Pat, I hope you appreciated that. But I want to go over to Wadix because Wadix, for your opening remarks and your tributes to Pat, let's look forward to that. I know you have a few things that you'd like to. Let me just circle back to you, Wadix. Wadix is not hearing me. And Sherwin, it doesn't look like Wadix is hearing me. I'm not sure. Are you guys hearing me? I'm not sure why Wadix is not hearing me. No, it looks like you.
Then you breathe.
Wadix, you're on now.
I want to say good evening to our esteemed and distinguished panel, to those of you listening to the big station. On behalf of the Kudos to Heroes Committee, I really want to congratulate Mr. or Sir Pat Aaron, our 17th recipient. And it's very instrumental that has been done during the carnival season at a time when Calypso is being challenged, at a time when the spinal cord of our nation, the documentation of history, the chronicle of social commentary, political commentary is being challenged. I have followed the career of Pats. I've been very fortunate to have listened and danced on Naked Feet. They would play at the St. Gerard's Hall during those days, and I remember as a little boy listening to them. And I also was very fortunate to be in the city when they had that special band entitled the Tower of Love. I think it was definitely the biggest band on the road. Maybe Ghost might confirm after, but I recall that particular band on the road entitled the Tower of Love. For someone to actually win 1/3 of the crowns in our 60-year Calypso history, I think this is phenomenal. I see Pat as the Calypso philosopher, the William Shakespeare of Calypso in Dominica. I mean, writing songs which sometimes are prophetic. We saw him take a sound or pen a sound for Dice several years ago, and we actually felt the effect of that song when our electricity company failed us. This to me is prophetic. We have been seeing quite a bit of the lyrical content, been 30 years, 25 years, 20 years, and continue to resonate. Continue to, really be like a revolutionary force. Sometimes it haunts us because one of the things that we are scared of in Dominica is the truth. We don't like facing our realities. We hate to face when other people see things different from us. But relentlessly, like a true warrior, Pat continue. And one must remember in 1978, if my history serves me right, the song that Zay won was sending all the ministers into the hole, sending all the ministers of the then Labour Party in 1978 into a hole in the cemetery. The colorful use of the English language, the poetic use, the calypso language, I mean, is second to none. There is Kaiso and there is Kaiso. And it is no wonder when you listen to the writings of people like Pat, and tonight is not ghost night, but then the level of poetic language is on a different level. To add to that, he was also a musician, so the groove, he gives this calypso a level of richness. a bounciness, something you can relate to, something you can actually feel and be overwhelmed into. Only a genius can do so. So, on behalf of the Kudos to Heroes Committee, as a matter of fact, myself and Paben did something special for this genius because we really believe in every 100 years, God sends a messenger in different forms to teach us. And we believe in Kaiso, several lessons has been taught by this genius. So this plaque reads, South Florida Dominica Diaspora and Creole Habit. To Pat Aaron, the Kaiso philosopher, thanking you for your tremendous contribution to the Calypso art form. From Emil, Paben Sira, and Prince Swadix. So this is our special way of saying thank you, genius. We love you, and may the Father continue to bless, guide, and protect you. Long live Patiron, long live Kaiso. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wadix. Appreciate that. Very well said. I did not expect anything less from Wadix anyway. But Lambi, do we have Ian Jackson on the phone? So, Ian, how are you doing?
Yeah. Not too bad, Mr. G.
Well, Ian, I hope you heard my congratulations to your daughter.
Oh, I missed that. I just reached home, but I'm there. Thank you very much. Yes.
We have to share the limelight with her. She did well.
Yeah, totally.
But Ian, tonight is all about Pat.
Yes.
So let me hear you and see what you want to tell us about Pat tonight and tell the world what you think about Pat.
Yeah, well, Mr. G and the rest of Dominica, the rest of the world, we are blessed with a phenomenal individual as a writer in Dominica. And I dare say Pat is one of the best writers in this region when it comes to songwriters. I mean, we're going to go into Calypso, where he has made his mark. But Pat, even before Calypso, in his time with Naked Feet, I'm a younger person than Pat. And basically, I've been looking at guys like Pat to help me even craft my lyrics and so on. So a lot of what I've learned and his skills, although we had not direct contact in terms of that aspect of our writing, but a lot of people like to call me a second Pat. And it's because there's a first Pat, people call me that. Basically, Pat Aaron, I followed Pat Aaron from the 1970s, you know, as a young boy going to the grammar school. I mean, Pat was an adult already. But when I heard the songs he was writing, even for junior Calypsonians and the level, I asked, who's this guy writing those songs? And I was told that it was a Pat Aaron. I had no contact with Pat. I did not know Pat at the time. But I know some of his brothers, you know, and Sty through football and so on, you know, and understand the connection. And I knew of Ranley because Ranley actually had a relationship with my cousin, who died as Lance Linton's sister. And so I got to know Randy after some time. But my initial moments when I found out who was Pat Aaron, this put a face to this gentleman called Pat Aaron, was in Harlem Jam City when Lofty, Loftus Emmanuel had activities there. And it goes way back to the Christmas Song Contest. I took part in the Christmas Song Contest. And I placed a couple of times, you know, in the Christmas Song Contest. And Pat wrote country and western. Pat wrote all sorts of genres of music. And everything he penned was a hit. You could almost be sure that when Pat penned a song, it's either going to win or please. And that was the power of that man and the pen. And so I started looking at him very closely in terms of his writing prowess, his use of skills and metaphors and similes, and the way he actually, you know, created imagery. Word pictures in your mind was fantastic. When he sang in the early 80s, I think he came on that song, Mama. Mama, that was a great song. When he sort of used a mother in the kitchen, you know, a mother at home to epitomize Mary Junior Charles and talking about the things that were wrong in the country. So a lot of people who don't know, the younger people who are here in Dice winning the crowns and so on, and Pat writing for so many people, would think that Pat only wrote songs basically because he supports that government or that other government. I beg to differ because what I know of Pat Aaron is that he does not like injustice. At least his songs is that. So no matter what government in power, I'm sure if workers today comes in power and they are forming the fool, Pat will write the same similar lyrics what he's writing now. So people that don't know Pat, they know him in the last 20 years, they'll just sing because this government have been there for around 23 years, basically. So they see that slant of him. But long prior to that, if you're a child like me that born in the 60s and grew up in the 70s, you would not know much more about Pat. Pat also wrote a song called Chapters 1, 2, and 3. I remember for Gordon Henderson. And I'm just talking from my head, because I have nothing written down. So prominent is Pat in this country they call Dominica, And I often wonder if Pat was out of Dominica, if he's from another country, Trinidad, Jamaica, or whatever, Pat would be a genius. We're talking about players like Winston, Divine, and all those guys and so forth. Pat is equally as great as those guys. It's just that sometimes it's where you are born and who you're exposed to as the only limitations. And so Pat Aaron has been very good with his writing. I mean, I did some research on him before, and I wrote on him also on the papers, many years ago, keeping my writing on the papers, on the Chronicle and on the Sun newspaper. And I just think I want to concur with Radix that he's a lyrical genius. And he sings some wonderful melodies. As you know, he's a musician himself, and he used to play bass player like myself. A lot of similarities in that respect. I'm with Naked Fit. And in those days, you had guys like Kelly and guys like Tim Duran, those type of guys, real excellent musicians in their era and so on. Even when he would make that song, massive song, Tower of Love. People don't know the other side of Pat Aaron. Tower of Love is a masterpiece of a song. His ability to juxtapose different things in a country and give it meaning and use personifications and so on is just wonderful. And that is why I rate him as Dominica's #1 writer. I mean, I make no apology for that. When people talk to me about Pat Aaron and say, but Jacobo, you just write good, I say, no. If I'm writing good, I'm second to Pat Aaron in Dominica. Because Pat Aaron really is head and shoulders basically above everybody else for what he has achieved. And I like to give a man his flowers while he's alive. So I'm very happy that, Q95 is doing this on this occasion. And incidentally, tomorrow, the 6th of February is actually Bob Marley's birth date, and it says something, and you're doing this tribute to Pat, and it's very instructive that is happening because that was another genius in the world of writing and as an artist. So Pat himself, while he was not blessed with a Dice voice, not blessed with a Tasha P type of voice, not blessed with a web voice, but he, when it comes to pen and paper and putting information down, he was a genius at that. I think God gave him a talent and ability to craft stuff. And if you have to go back to the archives and some of the songs, the generation of students will be amazed at the type of songs that Pat has actually penned to work with. He would for his sister, Julia Aaron, and Julia Aaron won several DBS song contests. But it was Christmas song, but she was also a star in her time. And he made Julia Aaron a star. I think that was his cousin or his sister. I'm not quite sure right now. But anyway, Julia Aaron was one of the persons that dominated and actually brought his songs to life in those days. And so, Pat, I know you're listening, Pat, and I just want to give you your full respect. I'm one of those guys who have always admired you in terms of your writing ability. I see in Dominica we have a lot of straight writers. I mean, writers who just tell things straight to the point, but never think Pat is going to tell something straight to the point, Because sometime I think around a month ago I was talking to him, and he was telling me about he had some issues, with his hand and so forth and things. So, and he was going through like a period in his life, So I mean, all of us get sick and we have like difficulties. And he was telling me that he put it in such a way, such a creative way that his hand was finding problems in coordinating with his lyrics, something to that effect. That tells you something about the mystery and the power of words that a man that can actually do. Okay, and he's actually, as we all know, that is why Dice have stopped and kept faith with him, because most times he pens a song for Dice. It's not just Dice great ability that we know we have, but it's also something about the songs that he creates. And you can look at a scenario and do stuff with it that you'd never think that you will hit and bring it out. I think we are making a mistake in Dominica in that we have never utilized Pat to do certain things, to write songs even for the country, to for different groups, for instance. I mean, for instance, right now we have a lot of Budo artists, we said, and I'm not sure how many of them have approached Pat in terms of the lyrical content, because his lyrics is something else. He has also written for people from the region, and he introduced me to persons that he has written for the region, and that also helped me to go on. Yes.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mr. G.
yeah. Well, what I wanted to say to you is that, you know, there's so much to be said about Pat.
Oh yes, so much things.
You know what? You know what we're gonna do, Ian, because we have so many people. We're gonna call you back. I hope you don't mind if we call you back later for you to make an additional.
No problem. I'll stay wrong. No problem. I understand it. I just want to say finally, before I leave, that basically I love you as an artist. I promote you as an artist. Very silent in my own way. When I go overseas, when I speak, I say, oh, you know, well, Pat Mendon, because they call Pat Aaron. He's a deadly writer. And basically, I just want to salute you. And I like the idea of giving you flowers while you're alive. Not by financial, but basically, we want the rest of Dominica to know that we have a gem in Dominica and is equivalent to anybody else in the region. Yeah, I'll pause there, Mr. G. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to assure you, Ian, that Pat he's heard every single word that you've said, and I know he's appreciated every single word that you've said. But we want to move on now because we have a lot of people who have a lot to say. We have quite a few voice note tributes that have to come. A little later, we'll do 3 of them in a while. But right now, I'd like to go over to the current president of the Calypso Association to say a few words. But before I do, let me just recognize that the caresser, it's Gregory Rivera, is with us, and I hope soon he will turn on his camera so that we'll be able to see him and see Hunter as well in a while, because they too have to make a few remarks here in a short while. But Mr. Davidson Observer Rivera, your comments, your tributes to Pat Aaron, what do you think of him? You want all right?
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, you very well indeed.
Okay. Good evening again to everybody. Good evening, and good evening to, I usually call him the maestro, Pat Aaron. I don't know if Pat Aaron can remember, but Pat Aaron have had a serious impact on my life in many ways. Some that he may remember, but some he may never know because it was not told to him. But the first time I encountered, well, let me first sing the first song that a brief part of the first song that Pat wrote for me, and I wonder if you can remember. Don't strike the country too hard, it's hurting already. You remember that part? You remember that song? And then he come with the masterpiece, give me back my vote, give me back my vote, give me back my vote, give me back my vote. Then he continue with me. We are giving up for nothing, and on and on and on. So Pat is somebody that I have tremendous admiration for, and most people that may speak about Pat, they may speak about Pat as a calypso writer because most people know him to be a calypso writer. But I'm one of the persons who feel very honored and privileged to have had a close, very close relationship with Pat Aaron. And as a result of being that close with him, I was able to gain other knowledge and other values, you understand, beside just being a Calypsonian. But even some of those values are some of the values that even helps me presently as I am now at the helm of the Calypso Association. And one of the things that I learned from Pat is integrity and always try to do things above board. That is one of the things that he always taught me. And many, many, many times when I want to make decisions, I find I have difficulty in gaining that forward movement on my decision. I usually refer to him and ask his opinion because it's someone I really value a lot. You know, Pat influenced me. The very first time that Pat influenced me is when I wasn't a very intellectual person when I was very young because I didn't go to high school and all that. I went to primary school. Later on, I went to college and get my nursing degree and so forth. So there was two persons that was influencing me in Calypso at the time, was Pat Aaron and NC. I love NC style on stage, and I love NC, and NC songs were simpler in the way it was composed. So I was gravitating more to NC song. But even when I met Ian Jackson always used to tell me, Observer, you know Pat Aaron is a better writer than NC. I should tell him, no boy, you hear NC songs by like Jacko used to tell me, yes, Observer, check this out good. Look at how Pat Aaron just put certain things and phrases, and look at the deepness of his song. So Pat songs at the time, they were not my first choice in comparison to NC, because Pat songs were very intellectual and they were deeper. But Jacko tried as much to bring me to the point to listen a lot more to Pat. So I was always the Calypsonian who wanted to look like NC on stage, but have the kind of materials afterwards that Pat was writing, because Jacko put in my brain that Pat is a better writer than NC. But if you notice, if people follow me from the beginning, when I came into Calypso in the big leagues, they would notice that I always used to wear gloves, and I always used to try to dress nice. And that is because Pat Aaron always used to be dressing nice and have his gloves. I still remember in the very first time I saw him dress nice, he had a kind of a baby blue suit, and he had that gloves in his hand. And I always find that was looking nice and pretty, man, on stage. So since that time when I joined in, I always used to wear my gloves until recently when I figure out I move ahead of that. When I start doing Krong and thing, I move ahead of the gloves things. But that's one of the influence. The second influence that Pat really have on me is a quote. And I never forget that quote. And one of those times I actually used the quote, or the moral of the quote, to stand for Pat Aaron. And unfortunately, there was a gentleman who I used to call a brother of mine, who used to work with me closely in Calypso as part of my management team, and he chastised me. And all I had to use was the quote. Part of a quote that he always tell me, Observer, if you know better, you must do better. And there was a time when Shirley, the Calypsonian, the Buyo artist we know as Shirley, when he came into Calypso in the big leagues, he was in the juniors, but the very first year he came in the big leagues, he came as the professor. And then he had a song challenging Pat Aaron. And I think Pat Aaron made a remark that was taken out of context. So Pat Aaron said something to the effect that if he was, let's say, Shirley's father, he would not advise him that his first year to come into Calypso to challenge a person like Pat Aaron, because he doesn't have enough history of Pat Aaron to really kind of take on that challenge. And I think some people misinterpreted what Pat meant, and they take it to mean that Pat was chastising the man's father. So I felt that too much was going against Pat, because people was using that. I remember Shirley was young, and us already in Dominica, we usually go to the downtrodden. Pat is a great hero, so everybody will easier go to the downtrodden, and he's a young boy. So everybody clinging more towards the support of Shirley. But I listening and I watching, and I say to myself, no, Pat is being crucified for something that was misunderstood. And I decided, something, I know better. And as a person, at that time, I was the public relations officer of the Calypso Association. And I was also a finalist in the competition as well. And I decided, something, I'm going to go up on the radio and I'm going to defend Pat integrity, because I know Pat, not just as a Calypsonian, but as a man I have a relationship with. I know what he stands for. I know how he feels about young people and human being on a whole. And I know he was misunderstood. And I say, Pat cannot go and defend himself, because it might cause even more problems. But if a person like me stand on his behalf to defend his integrity, I felt that I was doing justice to what I was taught by him, and I was also doing justice to a great individual.
So, Observer,
and I went on the radio and I gave my view, and I make the world know that, in my honest opinion, I don't think Pat meant any harm or any ill will to this young man. And up to this day, I stand with that conviction because I know Pat as a great individual who cares about people, who has a high level of integrity. And that's a man I figure out that needs to be honored. And when I heard that he was being honored and I was called by Mr. G to give a contribution, I felt very happy and privileged to even be in the position where I can be able to give the world my views about Pat as it relates
So,
to his writing calypso for me and my
on
personal
that note,
relationship with him.
observe on that note, I want to give you a little pause for a little while because we all have a lot to say. I mean, we can't stop talking
Yeah,
about
I
that.
know, I know.
So you'll come back a little later, but I think we have the reigning Calypso monarch on the line with us. Is Trilogy with us? Lambi, Trilogy with us? I'm not hearing him. If he is, you need to connect me to him.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Hi, the Trailer.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes,
very
we can
well.
hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Lambi, make sure we're well connected, please, because we
All right,
want the
nice.
thing to be heard.
I was just watching live, so I was fearful that it might have some feedback coming in. Are we good?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay, nice. Well, I guess let me get straight to it. But first of all, it's an honor to be here tonight amongst the panelists, and also, just to have been chosen or to be one of the people who were called upon to say something about the great, the legend, Pat Aaron. So I just want to say good evening to everybody and a special good evening to Pat Aaron tonight. As you know, we give you your flowers and your kudos. Yeah, man. So, yeah, man. So once again, big up to Mr. G for just allowing me to come and speak and so on and so forth. Honestly, it's an honor to share in this legend in Pat's legendary accomplishments, because I mean, look, coming into Calypso, I would always hear of the legendary Pat Aaron and how he would write such amazing compositions, not just lyrically, but also coming up with so many melodies. And I was so happy to find out that when I actually started paying closer attention to Calypso, that Pat Aaron was called a musician who was a Calypsonian even before he started writing for others and so on and so forth. And that just made me have such a greater and deeper appreciation for him and what he has done for the art form. I mean, I salute him as a benchmark writer. He's one of a kind, and he has helped to shape and sustain Calypso, and has certainly set the foundation for people like myself and other young people in Calypso to build on. For years, many years. I mean, this man has given, the legendary Dice, who is a great performer. He has given him, songs that has made him get 9 crowns, and allow him to be the ultimate king of Calypso, So I mean, this is nothing short of genius, and it's a pleasure once again to just give him all his flowers as he rightfully deserves it. It's very nice that we are doing that you are doing this evening, and I offer my utmost respect to Pat for his work in Calypso. Like I said, not only as a lyricist but as a musician, coming up with some of the best melodies that we have heard in Calypso, and writing for people like Dice and Play and many other Calypsonians, too numerous to mention. His contribution to the art form is sterling and it is unmatched, and I don't think that we'll ever see another contribution such as Pat's own. And once a young man can come and say that, trust me, that you have touched the hearts and minds of Dominicans everywhere. So I just wanted to say this piece. And yeah, man, just thank you guys for allowing me to share that. Um, you know, I'm seeing that the future of Calypso will be in good hands because you have Calypsonians such as myself, who have challenged Pat, in very healthy competition, coming out on top last year and also having to go through the motions again this year and probably for the future and so on and so forth. But we hope that, a lot of people will take a page from his book and try to create, a lot of ingenious work that he has done to keep Calypso flowing as he has done for so many years. Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, Triller, thank you very much. The reigning Calypso monarch is the young man who says that the future is in good hands. It is in good hands because the young people, he's going to bring a lot of these young people back into the Calypso. Thank you, Triller. Appreciate that. But we want to do something very quickly. We want to move over to maybe do 2 or 3 voice note tributes that are already recorded. I don't know if Lambi, if you have them queued up, you can just go ahead and run 3 because there's so many people who have sent voice notes. Let's run 3 of them right now.
Yes, hello. Greetings and well wishes to all listeners on Dominica and throughout the diaspora. We are here to pay tribute to Besto Flowers while he's still alive, rather than when he closed his eyes. Yes, a giant in his own right, a leader among men, a cultural stalwart, a home guard, a defender of moral principle, an invoker of truth. Yes, Uncle Pat, thank you for your contribution to our culture. Truth be told, this has been more than mere entertainment, but rather documentation of the journey of a people in recent years. And for that, you are loved and respected many a time over. For impacting lives and pushing us to think critically, for showing us how to stand tall, to stay on square even when it seems unpopular, for putting words to reason, skillful and masterful. The proof is in the pudding. 20 plus crowns and counting. Conquest finalist. They say the pen is mightier than the sword, and serious battle indeed you have done. Thank you. But may the love, admiration, and appreciation fuel the meditation for further creation. May the Most High continue to bless you and keep you. May you continue to be a conduit of communication and an agent of change, growth, and development here in Dominica. May you continue to speak to the plight of the masses. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because every trial, every tribulation is inspiration. We love you, Uncle Pat.
A tribute to Pat Aaron. I am Noreen Williams, and Pat Aaron is one of my nephews, the third in a family of 5 children of my sister Tora Aaron. We grew up together in an extended family with his parents, who were my godparents, my father, and one of my aunts. From a very early age, about 12 years old, Pat started showing interest in music. He was composing songs and singing them all by himself. Being young children ourselves, the 5 of us used to make fun of him and did not have the foresight that one day he would become such a prolific calypso writer, one of, if not the best that Dominica has produced. He also played the bass guitar in the Naked Feet Band during their existence in 1970 to 1978. Although he had to go to practices regularly, this did not deter him from doing his writing. He participated in calypso competitions but stopped singing when he realized that his voice was a setback and that he would never receive a crown after putting so much effort into his composition. His first king was Eric James, which was a great motivation for him to continue. To date, Pat has crowned 7 kings and a total of 20 crowns. Out of the 20 crowns, 9 of them belong to King Dice. He has also crowned several junior Calypso kings. Pat, it is usually said that we should give people their flowers while they are still alive. The rest of the family join me in congratulating you for your achievements. You have made us very proud, and we feel that you deserve any award or recognition that is bestowed on you. We love you.
Hello, my name is Obi Aaron. I currently live in Washington, D.C. and attend college in Maryland. Ever since I was born, I knew Pat Aaron as my father. The father role that was brought upon him doesn't necessarily characterize him in his entirety. Truly, he is more than that in my life. He has served as a true role model and has taught me the fundamental principles of being an Afro Caribbean man in this society. Throughout the years, my father's impact in this world has grown beyond my family. From day one, he has dedicated himself to enlightening others through music. Ever since I knew the contribution he brought to Calypso, I just knew that this was his life mission. One of the greatest lessons my father has taught me is that success should come from within. It's not about proving anyone wrong, but to always speak up for yourself and not let anyone else speak for you. I recalled it numerous times when I was younger, and my father would take me to the Calypso shows. The atmosphere was filled with a variety of emotions, but these memories are the ones I always hold dear to my heart because I got to see my father's work come alive and triumph. I wasn't shocked in the slightest to learn that he was receiving this honor. I'm thrilled to see all that he has brought to the diaspora, and I have no doubt that he will continue to savorily enhance many more Calypso productions in the future. Congratulations, Dad. I'm proud of you.
All right. Lambi, let's do something now because it's obvious tonight is going to be a long night, but we have to try to shorten it because we know that so many people want to say so many things about Pat. He's been around there so long, doing so much great work. What I'd like to do, I don't know whether the Caressa, King Caressa, is actually actively with us there. I see his video is off, but I really was hoping to go to him now to say a few words to Pat. I don't know, Mr. Rivera. This is Senator Gregory Rivera, Minister of State, and we all know you fondly as the King Caressa. I want to ask you to say a few words now on behalf of Pat Aaron. If your mic is open, yes, your mic is open. Could you go right ahead?
Yeah, Mr. G, good evening to you and good evening to the Q95 families.
And how are you doing today?
Well, I'm trying to do a little better than yesterday.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, but thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to share briefly my experience with Pat Aaron. And I want to say from the onset that any award given to Pat is an award that he deserves. And tonight, I really want to commend him. I want to congratulate him because I, as a writer myself, I know it's a very hard work. And to have a gentleman year after year writing, sometimes for me, writing for myself alone takes so much from me, much more for somebody to write for so many Calypsonians in 1 year. And some of the characters that he brought to the fore. I remember vividly, and I always share that with him. I say, Pat, I remember when the Wrong Foot song came out. I was actually driving to the Kalinago territory, and I stood up and I said, that is a good song. That time I didn't know who was Pat Aaron in terms of his writing. I didn't know who was Son of the Saint, but that was one of the songs that struck me. And you're talking about a gentleman who has never left eliminations, and Pat was able to take him all the way to the finals. That speaks of the genius of a gentleman. At the same time, I myself had my own personal experience with Pat, and that was like 27 years ago. 27. Mr. G, I'm an old man, you know. 27 years ago, I had my first encounter with Pat. And I remember I was preparing for this Dumbfesta competition. And I asked somebody, well, who you think I should allow to review my song? And somebody told me, boy, Pat Aaron is the best writer in Dominica. Try to find Pat. This was the very first time in my life I went to Mont Prosper. And I met Pat in his little garden. And I said, Pat, good afternoon. He said, good afternoon, man. I say, I have a song I want you to review for me. And he said, okay, hold on. And Pat went, he pulled his guitar, and we went inside, and I sang the song for Pat. And Pat said to me, boy, that's a good song. And he gave me 2 lines. I remember those lines up to now, talking about Rome. No matter where I roam, Dominica will remain my home. And when I left Pat, I mean, apart from winning the competition, I left with a certain level of encouragement, with a certain level of motivation. I was so inspired that I maintain I have to continue writing. And every year I continue to write, and it was because of this encounter, this personal encounter that I had with Pat Aaron. And so I really want to thank him for the opportunity. I mean, as a result, I end up winning 4 crowns. But I can tell you that in 2015, Pat, maybe I didn't tell you that before, but to me, that was my best time in Calypso, because I felt that I had won, I had competed with the best, and I had won the best at that time. So I really want to tell him that was my best crown that I ever won. Now, the other thing about it is that, Mr. G, we have to understand, Pat doesn't always do it for the money. Pat does it for the love of the art form. I remember when we had challenges getting Calypsonians to sing in Stardom tent, Pat decided that he's going to form his own tent. A number of Calypsonians tried forming tents before, but what happened, it was so expensive to maintain those tents. Many of them fell apart. But what Pat did, he continued, and of course with the help of Bob and Dice and Randy, his brother, and they stuck to it and gave a number of other Calypsonians an opportunity to promote their songs during the carnival season. And I really want to commend him for that. In addition, I remember Pat inviting some Calypsonians to New York to perform. And he made a major loss. By the end of the day, he had to pay all the bills. So it wasn't always about the money, but it was more about the love of the art form. So I really want to commend Pat. I think Pat, to me, is the greatest writer in Dominica. There's no doubt about it. His songs are played all over the globe. I mean, for you to be able to take somebody like, you took Dice, and Dice 9 crowns. I mean, that is phenomenal. And you had a number of Calypsonians who never ever dreamed of moving to the quarterfinals. And Pat was able to take them as they are, with songs written by him, and took them straight to the finals. So Pat, congratulations. I am really, really happy and honored to be part of this this show, and of course this award. I want to wish you all the best, my brother. I want you to continue doing the good work. I want to tell you that I admire you. I love you as an artist, and I think that there's plenty more that you have to bring to the table in terms of your writing. So congratulations, Pat, and congratulations to the Q95 family. Thank you very much.
And that was the King Caressa. I believe we'll be hear from him again. Hurricane, so he's coming back. King Caressa must come back, and Hunter must come back. So I have to go to Hunter now, because Hunter, I hope you with us there, because you heard Caressa, you heard observer, you heard Hurricane. Let's hear you.
Well, first of all, let me just say good evening to everybody on the panel, everybody listening, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be here. And I want to congratulate Pat on all the work that he has done and he will continue to do. I always say sometimes I get sad because I say I wish people never had to die because the day Pat can do this again, man, we're going to suffer in terms of our platform, Dominica, the Calypso and everything else because Pat, I term Pat as a Calypso god, taking people from zero to a hero on a yearly basis. And I would wonder about how he does that. We're writing for an entire tent and everybody would sound good. And it's not only that. Pat to the guys, Pat just didn't give you a song. He gave you a package, a team of people to work with you. So if you couldn't sing, they put you in line, they get you to sing, get to the next level. And it was like a family. Now, to beat that, you have to have a lot of guts because these guys were like a force. I mean, 20 people backstage with their singers and chanting. You had to be really strong to go for that, you know? And Pat was like to the guys, a father figure, their writer, their mentor. Some of them, when they didn't have change, you would give them change to take their bus and so on and so on. Some Calypsons can be real troublesome, forever broke. So Pat was always there to lend that support, you know, a teacher, you know, a father figure. So Pat, man, we really appreciate your work. Although I'll tell you a secret, he never wrote for me, but I'll tell you why. It was no disrespect. It was just that I wanted to learn from the best. And to me, it wasn't about winning a crown. I wanted to be a better writer. I wanted to learn. So I was always on the opposite side, watching and see what's going on. So I would go around the guys and see how their team, how they work together as a unit. I mean, how they always got stuff across. So I learned. So you helped me to be a better artist, Pat, and I appreciate that. Thanks for your work. May God continue to bless and keep you, brother. One love, eh? Bless. Congrats.
Thank you so much for that, the King Hunter. Are we still looking for you to come back in the arena?
We'll try something. We'll see what happens.
You have to come back. Hurricane coming back. Caressa coming back. Hunter must come back.
Well, if Hurricane is back, I'm back.
You must come back. Now, here's the thing. I believe we have a voice note from Daryl Bob. I don't know whether you have that queued up, Lambi. I just wanted to take that before I go over to the Ghost. But first, before I go to the Ghost, I will go over to Swinging Janice for some remarks. But I want you to take, if you can, take the voice note from Daryl Bob if you have it queued up, Lambi. If you're running it, I'm not hearing you. So I'm assuming that you don't have it. All right. So if you don't have it, I will go over to Swinging Janice. So this is the first lady whose voice we're going to hear this evening. Swinging Janice is a veteran Calypsonian. She broke the glass ceiling. In the days when women thought they couldn't do it, she did it. And she's also a member of our Kudos to Our Heroes Committee. So Janice, I would ask you to unmute your mic and you can say a few words. Your mic is still muted. If you can't get it unmuted, you're not able to get it unmuted. If you can, then I would want to go over to this gentleman called Kelly the Ghost Williams, and I'm pretty sure that showing us somebody will help you, Janice, to get your mic unmuted when we come back. But Kelly, I wanted to come to you because you're one of the people who are the founder members of the Naked Feet Band. Yourself, Pat, people like Tim Duran, Roy Shillington, and so on. Tell us something about the good old days, Kelly, when you guys were making it happen there.
Yes, let me just say good evening to Pat. We go back a long way. Before Pat migrated to New York, basically I was probably more of a brother to Pat than Randy and Cleville because we were like tag teams. Even when we played music, Pat was on my left, I was on his right. He played bass, I played guitar. And I could probably I cannot say much more than what Hurricane and the rest everybody said, but I could go back to the incubation period where I think I heard Mr. G say that for the last 30 years. No, it's more like about 50 plus years.
50 years.
Yes, in terms of Pat writing, because Pat writing did not start with Calypso. While we were going to probably from late elementary school to secondary school, we used to have our Calypso shows on a big step where today you have people sitting drinking rum on High Street. And that's where Peaky and quite a few other Calypsonians started. I can remember those days where Pat used to write almost every Calypso that we sang. And I'm talking about in the 60s, while we were still going to school. So it is something that sometimes you are born into something. It's not something you decide you're going to do. I think Pat Aaron was born to write. We all read a lot. Tim Durham, myself, Glenn John, we read a lot. But then in all the reading, Pat was the one who take his guitar and go to the Dominica Club and spend hours. And then we'd come back with 2 or 3 songs. You know, so we cannot, it's not something that he probably say, I want to do one day. He was born to do that because that's what he did. And as some people before me mentioned, it's not only Calypso. It's a whole lot because we listen to rock music. We listen to all kind of music, and Pat would write according to those things. And that's where Tower of Love came out. And Tower of Love, today, when we see Triple K on the Bayfront, fooling that Bayfront, that's what Tower of Love was all about. It's only the only band I know. And in those days, there, of course, the instruments were not that powerful, but people sang. And you could hear everybody singing, and the music was actually the feet on the ground chipping. And that's the only band I know that was actually on free streets. I'm talking Kennedy Avenue, King George, and coming across, going to the bank on free streets. And the beauty about it was you only had about 15 men in that band, if you know what I'm talking about. It was strictly ladies following Naked Fit. Only the bandsmen were actually men in that band. Our days growing up together, musicians will know, and not too long. During the Christmas, I was at somebody's home, and we had some people my age, Pat age, from those times. And I said something, and somebody said, "You're not right. You forget the days. You forget the days." And that was one of our Naked Fit ladies who really said that to me, because we used to have a band house. In every bedroom would probably have a dozen women sitting. On the porch would have another dozen. Just women all over the place. That's what Naked Fit was all about. Jacko did mention that he wrote for Gordon. We went to Air Studios in Montserrat when only big people used to be going to Air Studios in Montserrat, big bands. Naked Fit ended up there. Pat was the writer, of course. We recorded a few songs there. We also went to Trinidad a few times, and I think musicians probably write 11 of the 12 songs we recorded. Unfortunately, we were a little bit too bright in those days, because even then we knew what SASEM and PRS was. And after recording, when we came to publishing, and the Trinidadians realized, hey, we already had our publishers. That's where it fell through, because they could not pirate our music anymore. And because of that, I think that we heard some of the music after in other people's music, but Naked Fit never, it wasn't produced, because we were able at that time to publish our music. We also did one with Saltone in Trinidad also, with Gordon, and we're talking of young Chubby, very young Chubby. I think we went through the same thing. We being a little bit too bright and publishing our music. And the people out there, when you publish your music, it means it's your music. It's not like when we used to go to Guadeloupe and we would get $300 for the album, and then it belonged to the producers. I mean, Chubby right now should have been a millionaire a long time ago, but that's what we grew up in. And most of that time, Pat Aaron was who that was writing every song we sang. Now, the beauty of Naked Fit again, because of Pat Aaron, while everybody played other people's music, we played music that Pat Aaron wrote. A lot of, probably 60% of what we played was what Pat Aaron wrote. You know, so it's not just playing the popular songs, but actually doing our originals. So it's not only the calypso part of it. Before that, musician, as we know him, is musician. I know him as most of is musician, not Pat. Musician, I don't know. You know, sometimes you wonder how people get to do things. While we were playing and Tixin, Pat was in the club writing. You know, that was his hobby. That was something used to take him to the pen and the book, while other people, while we'll be playing Drags and Pepper and those kind of things, playing cards, he would be in the club writing. So kudos to him today, whatever it is, whatever accolade, I think he deserves everything. And I have to say, as a brother, of course, as I said earlier on, we attacked him. I think I was more brother to him than Randy and Cleville, because we were of the same age group. His brothers were more in Zay and the rest, the older guys. So two of us, we were basically as brothers. And people used to believe I was an Aaron too, because I always used to be Pat Aaron. You know, so it's only when he left to New York that basically we went apart, because you cross the seas and then it's a different life. But before that, I can say to Pat Aaron and to everybody, to Mr. G and the rest, what you are doing there today is well deserved. And to my brother Pat Aaron, of course, I can say I think Zed was there. I don't know if Zed moved. I saw Zed there. Zed was like our little brother. And yes, my brother, I can see you now. Zed was like our little brother. He knows the whole history. And we go back a long, long way. But one of the things, Pat had the knack. And I can remember Pembo telling me that Pat will decide who will be Calypso King, because he knew how to look at talent. He knew whenever he chose that person, what it is that going to mesh with that person's character. And I can remember Young Dice, Teach the Children for Me, Dice. I think that was probably the first song you recorded. We recorded it in Weiss. You can remember that? No, it wasn't Patoon. The next year, because when you came on stage, when you came on stage on the tennis court, well, Edgar and myself saw Dice, and in the conversation, you see that youth man there? He has the power. And we know if Pat choose you, Pembo, I can remember Pembo telling me, boy, if Pat get that one, nobody do winning again. Because he had the knack for really choosing talent to write for. And that year after that, Pat wrote for you. And that was it. Yeah, and that was it from there. So kudos to Pat Aaron. Nothing, what can I say again? I don't know what I can say again. When it comes to be a lyricist, even people like Jacko will tell you, and I really cannot find, when it comes to Calypso, locally, and not only locally, in the region, we listen to Calypsos, and I think Pat is right up there with just about everybody else, considering that, of course, you have to take our environment and what we do, others in their environment, but we just cannot fall short in terms of giving Pat the kudos that he really deserves. So, my bro, I know it is presently. I wish you the best. I hope we'll see some time. We know what has happened between us over the years. Time and everything. But the love is always there. The love is always and will always be there. Right, Zed? And Zed, you know it will always be there, bro.
We'll make sure that you come back and say a few words to Pat before you leave here tonight. But I want to go over to Janice.
Yes, Mr. G.
Yeah, I want to go over to Swinging Janice for a minute there, because I think her mic is unmuted now. And then after Janice, I would want to take that voice note from the Bob, if Lambi has it now. And then after that, I will want to go to Pat Aaron, because I think he has heard some things here. It's going to be the first opportunity I want you to do a brief response to what he's heard so far. And then we'll come back to him later after many of the other tributes to him. So, Janice, I want to go over to you now.
Well, I just want to say good evening to the panel. Good evening to the listeners of Q95. What many people don't know, I'm not even going to talk about music like Kelly and the others. Pat was our daddy. I mean, the original women of Calypso, Pat took care of us. I mean, in 1984, 1985, 1986, 1987, and 1988, we lived in Jamiad. High Street was our place, and Pat was our daddy. I mean, most of us were of a single parent household, and that door was a revolving door on High Street. With even Kelly himself and Randy and Lofty and sometimes maybe Zed. Don't remember Zed too much there, but Pat would write our songs. Most times we were singing at the Christmas song competitions. You know, my songs were always written by Pat, and I was very possessive of Pat. That was my daddy, and he was writing all my songs, and he managed everything I did. And I have to say, you know, today I am perhaps the best self that I can be because I had a male role model in my life like Pat Aaron. He knows how I feel. He knows, you know, we've chatted from time to time, and he knows exactly how I feel. And so, as a human being, the human aspect, people haven't spoken about that yet. There was a man, a male figure who knew how to respect not only women, because we were not women, we were teenagers, but he was very respectful, the respect of a father. That's what he gave us. We were going in and out. We could stay in Jamiad from 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and respectfully, we would stay there. He would write our songs. We would sing. We could sit on his lap. We could sit on the couches. And he was a father figure to us. And I say to you, Pat, I am who I am today because of you, man. You're the king. And may you live on. I wish you, you know, the world of happiness. So kudos to you today. Receive your flowers. You deserve it.
Thank you, Janice. Appreciate that. Pat, when you hear those words, I'm sure this thing touches your heart to hear all those things. But before I come to you, I want to ask Lambi if he has this voice note from Bob. Get up. And if you have it, Lambi, could you run that voice note from Bob right now?
Yes, hello. Greetings and well wishes to all listeners.
Good evening, everyone. I feel particularly privileged to be afforded the opportunity by Q95.
It looks like Lambi may not have his thing well queued up yet. Lambi, you got it yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you give a little more than you take.
He says sometimes I don't feel to clap the government straight over the country, but I am afraid they take back my apartment.
Hi, I'm Daryl Bob. I'm known in the Calypso fraternity as King Bob, but I call myself the Bob. That's how I identified myself when I began my Calypso journey. It is an honor being here today. Being a contributor to this tribute to Pat Aaron is kind of difficult for me. One may wonder why, but it is really because of the difficulty involved in finding the most appropriate words to express how I feel about this man and capturing the value of every moment that I have spent with him to express here. It really cannot be easy for anyone, for that matter, whether you're a loyal person like me or not, dealing with someone like Pat is just wow. It can be overwhelming in terms of the spirituality, the friendship, the love, the care, First of all, I'm a creator of intellectual property. All my life, I make music and I understand the value of sharing intellectual property with another person. And Pat has been doing that with me since I met him. And that's over years, over like 20 years ago, if not more. So for me, it is really a big deal that he has chosen me to share his songs with for all those years. For me, it is beyond honor that I carry his torch.
Love of power, then the world will know peace, will know peace. So, goodwill.
Going beyond that, Pat is one of the 3 Dominicans in my life who is like a tutor, a lecturer, advisor, and mentor to me. I have never spoken to him about anything that he was unable to give me healthy advice on.
You don't love your neighbor. Ooh, you don't love your neighbor. Ooh, you don't love your neighbor. Ooh, you don't love your neighbor.
We could talk about anything, just about anything. And he would be able to leave me with something to ponder on. The depth of his knowledge on life and spirituality is infinite. And so very few may be qualified enough, far less me, to describe the person behind what we see and hear.
Prime Minister, nobody would go hungry in Dominica. If I ever serve in that position, I would leave my life above suspicion.
He has changed my life, and that's years ago. You know, he handed me a career that I make good with at every opportunity. Now, how do you comfortably describe a man who has given you a career? One who has actually given you the fine material to use your own talent to feed yourself and your children. How do you do that and not think that you might miss a number of things in describing this person? Well, this is what Pat Aaron is to me: a father, a brother, a confidant, and a friend. One to whom I owe a great deal of what I have become as an artist and a man today. To God, I am grateful for such a great person in my life. And to you, Pat, I'm grateful that you chose me and the others whose lives you have impacted in your effort at making Dominica a better place, where justice, truth, integrity, compassion, and love for country and its people are the desired hallmarks of the Dominican dream in your mind. I know that's what you want, Pat. I know that because I have decided to be part of your life's mission. We love you, Pat. We love you. And we look forward to many more years of sharing our lives and our talents with you as you share with us. God bless you. God bless the Pat Aaron of our time.
Well, one man is everything, batting, bowling, giving. As if nothing can happen without him. He says sometimes I just feel to slap the government straight over the boundary, but I am afraid they do me like Monster B. Parliament has become lately a house of comedy, and make we support as a shame.
Thank you, Lambi. Thank you, Lambi. Appreciate that. Pat, you've heard a few voices so far, a few tributes. There are many more to come. But you heard the last one from the Bob, which is really reflecting some of some other people express as well. They don't know how to do this because you've meant so much to them that they have difficulty finding the words. Let me get your reaction so far, briefly, to what you've been hearing from some of the people that you have known so well for most of your life.
Well, Mr. G, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you very, very well, Pat.
Very good. First of all, let me thank everybody for being here tonight. And I want to tell Mr. G, the faces and the voices I've heard and seen there tonight, I know how you got all these people together.
It's not me. It's you who brought them together, not me.
Man,
you did that.
Like Kelly, Ras Kelly, Hurricane, singing Janice. I already decided tonight, even if Janice wasn't there, going to give her a mention because she always has a very, very tight spot in my heart, you know. it's nice to hear all the kudos, you know, a man like Zed like Kelly said, or the younger brother. We grew up together, we were very tight. And Kelly was like my closest person, you know, not just a brother. We always been very, very close. When you see me, you see Kelly. When you see Kelly, you're gonna see me just now. That kind of way, you know. And one of the nice things is that we're still here, we're all here. We've been through our ups and downs. But like Observer said in his song, in spite of it all, we know how to come together when it's time to come together, you know. And that is a very wonderful thing. And I hope all of us live long and we continue to hold these values close to our hearts. For now, I just want to sit back and listen a little more because I know the time is short.
Yeah, well, Pat, you know, one of the things that you heard, I don't know whether you listened very closely, but I listened very closely. And I heard Kelly the Ghost, who was my boy. Kelly the Ghost said he wanted to bring back the brotherhood with Pat. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that part, but that is understood even if he didn't say it.
Well, he'll say it again when he come back to talk. But Kelly, when Kelly says something a minute, you can take his word for it. He want to bring back his brotherhood with Pat.
You can tell me that better than I know it because me and Kelly have been together from all our life.
Yeah.
For about 2 years we've been together. So that's looking like almost 70 years to me. We've been together, you know. So I mean, despite our disagreements in certain issues, we always had a very, very healthy respect for each other. Eh?
Right.
You know, like no matter what, I couldn't curse Kelly, Kelly couldn't curse me. Kelly ain't go back talk, me ain't go back talk Kelly. We have that kind of of thing, you know.
All right. Well, Pat, I mean, thank you for those brief words there so far. You'll come back again and talk again, I'm sure, as we go along. But you know what I wanted to do now? I wanted to bring, you know, this man on now who, you know, when you write for somebody and they win the crown 9 times, that person has to have a few things to say about you. I want to bring the King Dice. Let's see what they have to say about Pat. Dicey, you on?
Yep. Yeah. Good night, everybody. Good night, the listeners and the panel. You know, it's an honor to be there, you know, with you guys, the older folks that may give it hearing the stories. And I always like sitting down. I'm good like this. I always like sitting down with the older folks and their stories. I don't know why, but I just love that. You know, it does really bring me back and think. So as you say, the guy with 9 crowns and Pat. What I can say is Pat is daddy, you know, because always that's why I agree with the Janice saying Janice when she say father figure daddy kind of a thing because you know we raise up. Yeah. So, you know, and one of them times, you know, I'm that type of person that do my own thing. You know, I used to be in my clockers and singing. We had our crew. You know, I always like singing since before I'm in countryside days. I doing my own thing. So when I come down to the town, join the crews and them, WCK, do different thing, I realize the music, if you really want to sing righteous music and you want to do, you want people to listen to what you have to say through your music, I realize Calypso is where the people let's go. And, you know, so I wouldn't mind doing Calypso. You know, Calypso is where the prime ministers and them just sit down and they doesn't go in bouillon jams and thing. So I would like to talk to them. So if I have to go Calypso. So I used to be doing my stuff on the road, selling my little shades and thing. And I believe in SMA, we had Sharp Tooth. We used to be with him. And then he get introduced me to the Calypso vibes. But before that, I always like Calypso. I believe I used to hear I'm Hunter and Scrunter them and, you know, the NC and them. So I used to hear Pat, but don't know his Pat, you know, because I think a lot of the artists before used to, the young people wouldn't know because they wouldn't say it that much, you know, who's the writer. So that time when they introduced me to Pat, I can never forget, you know, I was outside on the street in Roseau selling my little shades and And but before that, I think Edgar Hunter, somebody told me that, you know, I heard you some night in doing your calypso thing, but I want Pat to write something for you. And I heard about Pat, but I don't know. And when I saw Pat the first time, I'll never forget. I see I have locks on his head. I say, wow, that is it for me. Since you have locks on your head, then yeah. Because for me, that is a righteous. It have something about Rasta and, you know, and righteous and fire to burn, and, you know, it has something. So then I see that, I say, okay, that's it. You know. And from that time, Pat give me no vibes, you know, because you turning from boy to man. You check and you going through a process, you go in school. I myself doing that on my own. You know, father checking his sin and yourself checking your sin, and then Pat come in the picture, give it giving you something that you like to do, yet still giving you, you know, qualities to go with it. You know, and yeah, I mean, that's it. You know, I mean, Pat, as I tell you, is daddy. As one of them things that I just tell them, me and Pat, we decide is the bow and the arrow. You know, is Pat is the bow, is the arrow, and God that pulling that. You know, and how hard he pull it is how hard that fire in. And that bursting. I tell you. Yeah, sorry for my language. But I have to try to bring the hype because the emotions there too. But Pato is daddy, and, you know, it's good vibes. It's respect, and it's just honors. And when it comes to writing, I mean, thank you for for Q95 to even see that, but not all you alone not supposed to see that. Along the whole Dominica is supposed to see that. But, you know, we have to learn to love our own. And if it's there, you have to start, then let's start it there. You know? Yeah. Big up. Thank you, Mr. G.
Yeah, I see you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, man.
I'm not sure whether we have. I wanted to get one of the voices of the younger generation. I wanted to get JD on. I don't know whether we have him yet. Lambi, let me know if you have JD so we can put him on. If you don't, then I would want to go to Zed Lloyd. Lambi, do you have JD on the line yet? Not yet. So you don't have JD. So let me go to Zed. I mean, Zed, somebody referred to you as the young boy who was in the house that they were talking about. Let's talk about it.
Well, good evening. Good evening. Are you hearing me clearly, Mr. G?
Very, very clearly. Very clearly.
Yeah. Well, before I focus on what, you know, I'm in a special place here tonight, you know, not my usual abode. I'm in the den where, you know, many of the songs got written out here in foreign. I came here because people that have been with Pat in this experience, they wanted to in some way feel a sense of, you know, connection with Pat tonight. The elder Steve Vidal from Salisbury and his wife, you know, they've had a really long relationship and this is where Pat has been based. And I just want them to connect. They're shy and they don't really want to deal with but they send you love and, you know, and all those good things, you know. Yeah, I'm here. And so for me tonight, Mr. G is, you know, is a special kind of night. You know, I really wanted to be here. I wanted to be here. I wanted to be here because, well, people say that this is Big Brother. Yeah, you hear the Big Brother talk a while ago. This is Big Brother. This is, you know, them fellas that shape a lot of me, you know, yeah, good reasonings and make me, you know, look at things critically. Yeah. Pat, people talk about Calypso. Pat writes, and the way he writes is because Pat always questions everything. You know, he never ties himself any chain to any concept, anybody, he never ties himself. You know, if it's good and it's being done right, he will stick with it. As long as it's no longer right, he will cancel it. You know, and so I had a lot of brothers in my life and sisters who really formatted, you know, in those formative years when what you learn by is example. And you know, I had Ollie O'Grels who, the way he walked down the street gave me confidence, you know, zero stress with cigarette. You know, but Pat and Kelly and the man was, I think Pat brought to my life, Pat brought a moral compass. A moral compass. No matter how difficult the conversation was, no matter how difficult the challenge, we could talk about it. You know, it was never. Some people can't have difficult conversation. I think what made me get attracted to Pat and K, we could have difficult conversations and we could have them and disagree and overs and reach a stage where you know what, that is right and that is wrong. And so when people talk about how Pat writes calypso and you know and what he writes about, you know, if you want to bring a different flavor to the calypso, go and write your flavor. You know, go and write your flavor. This is Pat's flavor. This is what he is. He questions everything. He stands up for justice, and you know that irks him. Injustice just does not sit well with him. We're not perfect. You know, he's not perfect in his life. We're human beings, but he has a principle of for against injustice, and I think that was very formative to me in being around these brothers and spending so much time in their gathering and learning from them, you know, and I cherish that and I want to thank him for that. You know, I want to thank him for that. I know it's a lot of people, Mr. G, and I don't know if I'm gonna get a chance to come back. But I think we've kept it on the level of the music.
You will get a chance. You will get a chance to come back.
Yeah, because I think that moral conversation of Pat, I really want to, because I think it's nation at this point. You know, we need some Pats, and I would like to. So I hope we can, you know, God bless.
Yeah, you will get a chance to come back because you see, you know Pat very well. You see, you're the kid that grew up with his guys, right? So you also tell us what you growing up. No, but I think now that we have Tim Jura in there, and earlier on we were talking about Kelly the Ghost, talking about Naked Feet. Tim, you've known Pat going way back. You were an integral part of the Naked Feet band. Let's hear from you now. And then after that, I'm going to ask Lambi to take a few voice notes from some of the persons who gave us recorded voice notes. So Tim, let's go over to you now.
Well, thank you, Sheridan. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this really awesome event, you know, honoring Pat Aaron. I don't think Q95 could have chosen a better person in that field, you know, to honor. I want to commend Q95 first of all for doing a program. Kudos to our heroes, and additionally for choosing Pat as the subject for tonight. I was hoping you'd have let me catch my breath before, you know, asking me to come on because I just arrived. But in fact,
Sorry about that.
I just came from out of town and rushed to the studio because I wanted to be part of this thing tonight. I mean, I'm not a guy, despite the fact that I've been in the media for most of my life, I am not somebody who seeks the spotlight. But tonight I wanted to be on because I wanted to be among those paying tribute to Pat Aaron. And I am not going to repeat a lot of what has been said because I have been listening, you know, while I traveled into town, and many of the things I would have said if I were the only one talking about Pat, you know, have already been said. But I want to add to what I've heard so far that in addition to being a tremendous songwriter, tremendous composer, you know, Pat also was a very good, very righteous, upright, you know, person. He, you know, experienced in Naked Feet. I remember that when we started, I was chosen as leader of the band because I had a little knowledge of music, you know, ahead of the others. I could play the guitar. Yeah, it was okay. I didn't want to go that far, but Kelly, Kelly hit on the nail. I was the only one who could play the guitar, so I was chosen as the leader. So Kelly had to, you know, hurry up and find a way to learn to play the guitar, you know, and he learned fast, right? Okay, he began as a drummer, and then Pat started to play bass and so on, and then Roy could already play the keyboard. So we were the two guys. So for some reason, because of that, the guys chose me as leader of the band. But shortly afterwards, Pat took over as leader, and I was not surprised because Pat always demonstrated a tremendous sense of responsibility and discipline. I heard Kelly talking earlier on about how when others would be sitting around playing, you know, games and what have you, Pat would go to the Dominica Club with his guitar and sit down and write songs. So that was the kind of discipline that he demonstrated, you know, very early on. And so when he became leader to me, I had no difficulty with that. I had no difficulty following a man, with such passion, such skill, talent, and the ability to lead people. And so, even with songwriting, his impact on me can be demonstrated by the fact that whenever I wrote a song, I would seek Pat's advice. I remember I wrote a song one year that came close to winning the Christmas Song Contest. It was number 2, I think. And when I got the idea initially, I went to Pat and said, "Hey, here's something I want to write. What do you have to say about that?" And Pat actually guided me, through writing the song, and eventually the song almost won, And so whenever I had a song that I had any difficulty grasping, I would run it by Pat and say, "What do you think?" In fact, just recently, I sent him a song to get his feedback, on it. So having recognized the ability, his ability as a songwriter, and the kind of impact that he was having not only on the Calypsonians that he wrote for, but also the people who played with him in the band, or the other people who were associated with him. That is the kind of Pat Aaron that I've come to cherish today. Someone I could look to. I remember him giving me advice, when we lived, because here's the story. We all lived in the same area, the core band members. We started living in the house on High Street, directly opposite the Dominica Club. That was Pat's mother's house, which he and his brothers and sisters ended up living in after she died. And so we kind of became a tight knit. We're not just a band there, we were a family. And I heard Kelly talking about his closeness with Pat. We were all, when we became band, we were that kind of tight knit family. I ended up living on High Street in that house because straight out of sixth form, I was looking for somewhere to stay. I used to live with my sister in town, and she moved out to Melbourne Hall. So I was looking for a place to stay. And Pat was gracious enough to accept me into the family,
Tim, could you hold on one second? Let me just ask Zed to please mute his mic because it's interfering with your audio there. So Zed, could you please mute your mic? Go ahead, Tim.
Yes. So I was saying that, I started living on High Street as part of Pat's family, so to speak. And that is where the idea to form the band, it was born. And I was saying that in addition to being part of a band and being a very versatile, very talented, very creative band, at the core of which was Pat Aaron, he was also someone I looked to in terms of his outlook on life. He was somebody with integrity. He was somebody you could go to for advice. Someone who didn't wait. He was somebody who didn't wait on you to come to him for advice. He would approach you and say, "Look, Tim, I really think, what you're doing, or here's how you should do what you're doing, or here's what I think you should do." And, I have been through my life with the understanding that Pat Aaron is somebody I could turn to when I need advice. Quite apart from the tremendous ability that he has, I've come to recognize him as a very compassionate human being, somebody who has tremendous leadership skills, who can lead, and we were prepared to follow him, and somebody you can turn to when in help for solid advice. So for now, Sheridan, that is what I'd like to say about Pat.
Thanks a lot for those comments, Tim. It is really good to see the foundation because, sometimes you see people today and you never know where they've been and what they've done. And when I listen to those testimonies today, it kind of paints a picture of the story of Pat's life. What he seemed to be coming out is always a leader, a straightforward man with integrity. He's true for forthrightness, and that is coming through certainly very clearly. And it's been seen in his writing, in his songs. I wanted to take a few voice notes. I don't know whether Lambi, you can just queue up to let us run a few voice notes. And right after that, I was hoping that Dr. Simone would reach out to all these folks. We have quite a few folks who are with us on Facebook and on YouTube and on many different platforms. So if you could run a few voice notes for us, Lambi, 3 or 4. And then after that, I would ask Dr. Simone to reach out to the folks for us?
You can mention you
on the platform?
Hello, my name is Dwayne Rogers, and I'm from the New York area. And I've known Pat for over 10 years as my tax preparer. And during these years, I've come to know Pat as a man of faith, wisdom, and humility, a masterful creator in the area of music and songwriting, and whose songwriting has propelled artists like King Dice to the top. Pat would share with me about his excitement and participation in Carnival in Dominica, as well as writing songs for artists throughout the Caribbean. And I would go and listen to and enjoy the music myself. In conversation with Pat, I could always feel the pride he has for his homeland, Dominica. Pat to me is a voice of unity who cares for his fellow man and is a quiet storm that rings loud in this generation and imparts to the next.
Good evening, everyone. I feel particularly privileged to be afforded the opportunity by Q95's Kudos to Our Heroes Committee to be part of this special celebration in which we are paying tribute to our dear friend and my family, Pat Aaron, as we recognize his many years of outstanding contribution and heroic achievements. Many of us know Pat for his prowess and his lifelong dedication to the development of culture, particularly as a prolific songwriter and in the development of calypso in Dominica and throughout the region. But tonight, I have considered it prudent to allow others to speak of Pat as a cultural icon and as a creative songwriter. My focus is on Pat, the gentle spirit, the kind, caring gentleman who has been a true friend and family. Although I may be adequately qualified to speak of Pat's proficiency as a calypso composer in my private capacity as a calypso lover, and more so in my capacity as King Elsie, that young, energetic calypsonian who competed at the St. Mary's Academy and also at the Junior Calypso Monarch competitions during the early 1980s, that is between 1981 and 1983. Of course, King Elsie was never good enough to win a calypso crown, always placing second or third runner-up to the more skillful singers like The Element, Moki, King Zico, Brown Sugar, Swingin' Janice, among others. But definitely, that was not because they had better songwriters than Pat. It was primarily because they were more talented performers than King Elsie. As a talented musician, songwriter, Pat has the unparalleled ability to capture our socioeconomic and political realities into song. He is well attuned to the pulse of the society, which he documents and presents in rich lyrical contents for his melodious compositions. He comes unarmed to the calypso arena just with a pen in hand, and that makes him lyrically dangerous. So it's nothing strange when Pat writes of the need for socioeconomic change and points out the many injustices in our society, when he laments the high rate of youth unemployment, and he describes leaders living lavishly, building mysterious houses, while the people are in poverty. This is Pat. He's genuinely concerned about the things that are taking place in our society. He works to see Dominica grow. And he doesn't just write to produce a calypso king. He writes as a protector of our democracy, a true patriot, one who loves his country and puts it first. But my intent is not to speak of Pat's proficiency in calypso writing and cultural advancement in the little time allotted to me. I rather speak of the man himself, the person that I've been privileged to be associated with as a young boy growing up in Mount Prosper since the late 1970s. At that time, Pat was the lead guitarist and vocalist for the band Naked Feet. Over the last 40 years, I've witnessed and I've been personally touched by the genuine kindness, generosity, selflessness, and the ever-ready willingness of Pat to assist and to uplift others. Pat takes pride in sharing his wealth of knowledge, experience, and wisdom, and in assisting others when they're in need. As we all know from his writings, Pat has a genuine love for community, country, and humanity. He gives wise counsel, always encouraging others to build, to cherish, and to love family and country. He advocates for a just and peaceful society and encourages us to be good to those who we interact with. Pat has received many awards and accolades over the years, but there is always a need to give more awards, more kudos to someone like Pat. Because Pat always makes a positive impact on others through his own kindness. As the song goes, there is a place in the world for people like Pat because he gives much more than he receives. And he's always trying to fix our society through his music. He's a voice for the silent majority for his calypsos. Pat never hesitates to provide an umbrella to shelter the heavy rains that come pouring unexpectedly in life. So today, I'm very proud to be part of the effort to shine the spotlight on an individual who exemplifies extraordinary kindness. And it gives me immense pleasure to join the chorus in honoring my dear friend, Pat Aaron. I wish to thank the Heroes Committee for affording me the opportunity to participate in this recognition of Pat's sterling achievements and contribution to the development of our society. Congratulations, Pat.
Hello, I am Oshun from St. Lucia, and I just want to take this opportunity to big up Pat Aaron from Dominica, who has been consistent in giving me hits after hits. My time working with Pat has been a breath of fresh air, bringing a different vibe and style to St. Lucia Calypso. Two of my most popular songs, well, three of them actually, were written by Pat Aaron, Iron in the Whip, and Nobody Do Love Me. I want to take this opportunity to say that anything his country will give him is well deserved, and he's a master at his craft, and we are grateful to have him.
Many people call him Pat Aaron or the musician, but personally, I call him Uncle Pat. The person I have been privileged to know over the years became more beloved to me when I found out that we are actually blood relatives. In more ways than one, Uncle Pat has been my go-to person when discussing underlying issues, seeking advice on personal matters, or just having a friendly conversation. Over 8 years ago, when I was brutally attacked and left fighting for my life, he took it personally, thus writing a calypso, Find Your Purpose in Life, sang by King Dice, who won the Calypso Crown that year in 2016. This act of kindness and selfless love encapsulates the person I have come to know and love, the person I call Uncle Pat. From the inception of Mass Camp at the Office Center, along with Bernard Georges, Uncle Randy Aaron, Cess, and others, With me being the go-to person to handle mass camps' secretarial duties, we forged a close friendship, which continues to this day. I could go on and on, but time won't allow me. So in closing, I want to thank Q95 and the Kudos Committee for recognizing my Uncle Pat, a humble, generous, and self-sacrificing person. I love you, Uncle Pat. Kudos to you for your contributions to love of country and the Calypso Art Form, and for your unwavering love towards humanity. I love you.
And thank you so much, Andy, for those kudos. I wanted to say to Wadix and Ghost and Dice and Tim that what I'd like to do now really is to go over to Dr. Simone Matthew, because we have so many people that are still with us on the social media, on the platforms there, on Facebook, on YouTube, and many other platforms. Dr. Matthew, could you give us your own viewers and then reach out to some of those folks and tell us some of the things that they're saying about Pat tonight?
Yes, good evening, Mr. G, the panel, our listeners, our viewers. I've just been sitting here and just enjoying all the wonderful tributes to Pat Aaron. So very well deserved. I do not know Pat personally, but I do know his wife. And talk about good people, you know, his wife Anne is a great supporter of the Calypso as well. And she happens to be the very first person who employed me in Dominica. So I just want to give a shout out to Annie. We all know Annie is a very passionate person, but of course the focus this evening is on Pat Aaron. So I'm unable to be on camera this evening, but I wanted to be here as a member of our Kudos to Our Heroes Committee to join in recognizing and celebrating Mr. Pat Aaron, one of our greatest Calypso writers in Dominica. He has truly been a part of the fabric of Dominica's culture and society, and he is a wonderful example of what is possible when we use our gifts and talents for the benefit of our country and our region. He has been a part of the lives of Dominicans at home and abroad, and I think it is only fitting that we engage with the audience, many of whom have enjoyed the wonderful music he has produced along the way. And before I do so, I just wanted to give a very special shout out to Mrs. Niambi Mate John out there in Canada, because she was the one who facilitated that wonderful tribute that we heard from the hurricane.
Okay, so did we lose Dr. Matthew? Did we?
As push past 10. So everyone who's joining us on Q95 FM radio, as well as Pushed Past 10, we say good evening to you and thank you for joining us in this wonderful celebration of Pat Aaron this evening. Mr. Thaddeus Black Pepper James, great to have you on board. Mr. Alex Bruno, nice to see you. My mom, Medina Senhouse, who was very adamant that we should recognize Pat Aaron for his contribution. Annette Phillip, thank you for being here as well. So let's just take a couple of comments. Mr. G, we will try our best to get as many comments as possible, but we know it's impossible because we have lots of folks on the YouTube and the Facebook Live. Greta Fingal says, listening from New York, congratulations, my friend Pat, continued success. Henrietta James is watching. Addison Baptist, good evening to you. Another wonderful performer out of Dominica, Mr. Carl Kofi James, good evening to you. Didi Esther, good evening. Kudos, Pat Aaron. We salute you. Congratulations. And we have lots of congratulations coming in from Irene, Glenda Shillingford, Jan Alfred. Let's see who else we have. We have Marshall Lawrence. Good evening, host and guest. Good evening, Pat Aaron. Deserving congratulations, brother. Christian Volney, big up, Pat. Bless. Adelaide Joseph, congrats. And we have lots more comments coming in. We have Theodelle Joseph, congratulations. Walker Clunes, Mary Jo, Let's see who else we have with us this evening. Rosalind Sever says, thank you, Pat Aaron, for your brilliance. Joanne John Baptist, good evening. Lauren Lestrade, Jane Bertrand. So just want to shout out everyone who's on the Facebook Live, on the YouTube Live, who is here with us. Let's just take a couple more, Mr. G, before I pass it back to you. Jane Bertrand, Cindy Yuseb, God's Anointing Judah says greetings. Mr. Ozzy Lewis, wherever he is. Okay, well, we're honoring Pat this evening, but thank you for that. Gold Dust, Sandra Green. Let's see, Denison Joseph. That's right, Dice. Share the live. Share the live. This is such an important conversation. So I agree with you, Dice. Thank you for reminding us that we should be sharing this live because, as Ian Jackson said, if not for Pat, he would not have been challenged to become even a greater writer. So by sharing this live, we're inspiring others to be the next Pat Aaron, to be the next Ian Jackson, and to bring in the youth. And I just want to say, it is so wonderful to see what...
I think Dr. Simone's internet going in and out.
Yes, I apologize for that. My internet is unstable this evening for some reason, but I was just saying we will take some more comments later.
Yes, and thank you so much for that. I know we will never be able to take all of the comments on Facebook and on YouTube and on the other platform because it's just too many. So, Pat, I just want you to know, I mean, it's really a wonderful thing to see so many people are really bigging you up tonight. I mean, you probably didn't know. Maybe you had an idea and I just didn't know. Maybe I'm the one who didn't know that you were so popular and so many people loved you and loved your work. But Wadix, you know what I wanted to do now? I really feel that having reached out to the folks who are on Facebook and bigging up Pat, I really think we should probably take a few calls from the public. I know that there are many people who are waiting to be able to call in and say something, to pay some tribute to Pat. So we're going to ask Lambi to give out the telephone numbers and let us see if some of our listeners at home, in the region, globally, any of them want to wish to make a call to Pat. Lambi, let's open the lines a little bit. Let them make a call.
The numbers are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257, 305-432-9624, and we already have a number of calls. Caller, please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Lambert. Good evening, panel. Good evening, Pat. This is a schoolmate of Pat from SMA. He probably knows my voice. Just want to congratulate him on all his achievements. Thank you for everything you've contributed to the country. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that. Thank you very, very much on behalf of Pat. Do you have another call?
Caller, please go ahead.
Good evening, gentlemen. How you all doing?
Good evening. Not good like you.
I'm not as half as good as you are. Good evening again, Pat, Annie. I just called to congratulate Pat. Mr. G, I've known Pat for over 50 odd years.
Oh.
All of us growing up in the same high street, Pat and Ras Kelly. I'm happy to know that Ras Kelly was speaking so good about his one-time brother. Tim Dura, Glenn John, and all the rest of it. Randy would be so happy to be there tonight by his little brother's side. Anyway, congratulations on all your accolades and everything people said about you. That was so good, and that is so true. Have a blessed evening. Congratulations again, my boy. Have a blessed night.
All right. Thanks a lot, Blue.
On the overseas line, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Mr. G. Good evening, Lambi. Good evening to everyone listening.
Good evening.
I've never met Pat Aaron, but I've always been a fan of Pat Aaron. I remember in the 70s and 80s when he was a calypsonian, one of the songs that he sang, which still resonates today, and it goes like this: "Awoken to see Dominica grow." I can't remember the other lyrics, but all what he was saying is that while he was sleeping, while people were sleeping, he was studying, and that's some of the lyrics from the song. But Pat Aaron, I want to congratulate you. You've been a prolific songwriter, composer, and master musician. And we all look forward to you producing and doing the things that you do best. So, my brother, congratulations to you. And they don't know while they're sleeping, I studying. You know, all the best to you, my bro.
Thanks a lot for that. You got another call? All right.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, go right ahead with your call.
Another caller. Please go ahead, caller.
Hi, good evening. Hey, calling from Houston, Texas. Big up my brother, your real brother there. Hey, man, I don't know, man, to hear everybody and the way they're talking about you, man, I always, I have a great bit of respect for you, and congratulations, just to let you know, love you, always will, man, And by the way, I'm 37. I'm a younger brother, and man, I'm so proud of you, man. Only words can describe. Enough love, bro.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Another call on the line. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening to everybody, but a special good evening to Mr. Pat Aaron. This is Ronald Charles here, and I want to also express my gratitude for a gentleman who has taught us not just how to write, not just how to compose, but a gentleman who have given so many voices to the voiceless through sound, music. And every time I listen to a storyline that encapsulates our culture, the way things are in this beautiful island, and by extension, the region. Because Mr. Aaron is able to put his writing that somewhat touches and concerns our region, CARICOM, the world by extension. I really want to say congratulations to the organizers, U95 and Mr. G and his team. Because you see, I've always said it this way. Once we can recognize people and they are aware of the recognition, this is the way forward. Sometimes we do it. Someone says, they just say never late than never late. But I think it is important to recognize people, like Mr. Aaron and what he has been doing for us as a society. So I want to, kudos to you. And I know if your brother was here with us, he would deeply, the radio would be on top volume, would be beyond, because he would have appreciated that. Because he too has helped craft the presentations that you have created so many things on. So I want to say the Valley is happy. We want to know whether or not we should take the trophy to say that you're a Valley man, but we're not sure. We have a little bit more research to do. But after spending so many years on the mountain, we think we can gain that we can take that trophy. And thank you for what you've done and continue to do for this country and for so many people in this country. And may God continue to bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald.
Thank you.
Have another call, Andy?
Have a good night.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Congratulations to you, Dr. Pat Aaron. Well deserved. That's you.
Yeah, thank you.
Another call on the line. Please go ahead with your call.
Yes, good evening. That's Mr. Cool Out. That's how Pat know me as. All I just want to say, long live Pat, and I hope the government sees fit to give Pat the DAH, Dominica Award of Honor, coming this 2024, 3rd of November. Good night.
All right, so Lambi, we'll pause the calls for a little bit now, and Wadix, I wanted to hear a little bit again from you. You've heard so much already. I mean, you're a man who, you're like the bridge that's connecting the old to the new. And you know, the young people, some of them may be into the bouillon, but I think they're beginning to take on to Calypso because people like Path inspired them to take a second look at Calypso. I want to hear your thoughts on Kelly and Dice a minute. While y'all are talking, I want Lambi to try to get a young man for me who epitomizes that. One of them is JD. There's a young budding Calypsonian, and he was a king once, and he's looking to come back again. So while Wadix and Kelly and Dice having this brief conversation, I'd like Lambi to see if he can pull up JD and then Shaky, because Shaky also is standing by for us to call him King Shaky. So Wadix, let's have a little conversation with you and Kelly and Dice now about what you've heard so far and your thoughts going into the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. G. Among some of what has been said, I like to document music history of Dominica. We know of the 20 Crowns. One of the things that we didn't say tonight is he also has 10 or so road match crowns, including 5 from Dice. Sai, also son of the Saint. Another thing we haven't said tonight, the only Calypsonian in our or this only writer in our 60-year history to have 2 three-peats. And that is Dice winning in 2004, 2005, 2006, 2012, 2013, 2014. You also have 2 double, Hurricane 93 and 94, Observer 2002, 2003, and the numerous quarterfinalists, semi-finalists, and 4 finalists. I remember once I was part of Mass Camp and we had 3 Calypsonians in the top 4. So the amount of Calypsonians in the top 4, the quarter. I really wonder how many songs, if Pat can even remember, possibly thousands of Calypsos, including the senior competition, the junior competition, the women competition, and also overseas. I remember he sent, what is that young girl that used to be part of the Mass Camp? I think the pastor's daughter to, I think, one of the Leeward Islands to represent Dominica. And what he did, I remember Ozzy Lewis. We cannot actually not mention him as the best Calypso commentator, speaking about or commentating on Soul Puss and telling Soul Puss once the song that he's singing, possibly his grandmother wrote it. And then from the time Pat took Soul Puss under his wings, we saw the transformation. You know, we actually saw one who couldn't actually make it to the quarters. It was a regular eliminations, Calypsonians. It took him to the finals on several times. We saw the transformation in people like SOS, that's the son of the Saint. So here is a man who identifies talent. Not very many people can identify talent. And the most important thing is with that talent, the ability to write, tailor fit the material to suit that particular individual. This is genius. I mean, this is simply brilliant. Not very many. That's why I said, I mean, every century God send, I call him the Shakespeare of our century. How many people, how many writers have that ability to choose a Calypsonian, tailor fit material to suit the ability, the vocal variations, and the melody that particular Calypsonian can carry that particular song. I mean, for somebody to do that continuously, both winning the crowns, the monarchy, the road match, to get them to go through the different stages of the Calypso art form, I think this is simply genius. The Ghost.
After all what we've said, I'm just thinking, as to what else we can say now. What else can we really say? Because, I mean, over the years we've seen it. The records have shown exactly. And as I said, while as musician himself said, while they partying, I working, and that was him. I don't think musician ever decided I want to be a writer. He was born a writer. All of us knew that. I mean, we were teenagers, you know, singing calypso on the roadside, and Pat was the one writing all the calypsos. Peaky will tell you that because he used to write for Peaky. Only one other person who came close to writing as much was Freddie Menz. Freddie was the kind of person who would write songs for a whole competition, everybody. And those two there, yeah. But Pat, of course, was way above Freddie in his writing. And as I said, it was a gift. It's not something that he learned. He was born with it, born with writing. And it wasn't just because of Calypso. Tim Dura is there with us. Long before Pat even got into Calypso, he used to be writing. We used to sing other songs other than Calypso. And as I said earlier on, we went to S Studios in Montserrat, where, as to how, I think all that was again leadership. It was the leadership. We went to Trinidad, it was again leadership. And a lot of those things we did really without money in our pocket. But because of the leadership of Pat Aaron, we used to be adventurous. We went to Trinidad without money. About 13 of us probably slept in a bedroom, my grandmother's La Salle, we just call it, the bedroom and the La Salle. We did things like going to Barbados. I can remember going to Barbados, the 47-day strike, it was 47 days. And you can imagine you in Trinidad without $1 and your flight gone. And all that, I think, was Pat bringing us on all those adventures, you know, in terms of musical adventures. And it was just, like Tim said, Tim was, as to when the change came about in terms of leadership of the band, I cannot remember that. It's just that it happened because, you know, it wasn't a decision that, okay, Tim, you're not the leader anymore. It was just a natural thing in that Pat was always the leader, always willing to take chances. And I guess as young people, we trusted and we all just went along with what the music, where the music was bringing us. And it took us to all different areas in life. Things sometimes I can remember a musician and myself and Glenn John sleeping on the beach in St. Lucia, trying to get to Trinidad. And you're sleeping on the beach and you're fighting with sandfly. And you're wondering, you know, what you're about. But then the determination was always his. We went to Guadeloupe. Tim will remember that also. We went to Guadeloupe to record actually, we went just as the other bands. Unfortunately for us, we had an agent who was, quote unquote, one of the crookedest people we ever met in our life. And then we had to fly back home, leave him stranded and come back home because of, again, crookedness. But then nothing much I can say again about Pat, more than the leadership he provided. And, you know, Janice said something, and I went back. And Tim, I have to say kudos to, you know, to you, Pat, and the rest of us. We used to have a lot of ladies around us. And I cannot remember one instant of anything bad in terms of harassment, whether sexual or anything. They were always, they were always part of us. And you know, when Johnny said that, it flicked me back. It was a family, as Tim said. We all went to school together. Tim came, he joined us on High Street. And just thinking back, so many young ladies around us. And I cannot remember one instant where they had any kind of, you know, wrongdoing. According to it, they were all part of the family, and you know that is something that just hit me when Janice said that.
If you don't mind, right?
Yeah.
I want to take the opportunity before I forget. Otherwise,
yeah, go ahead.
I may get booted out of my bedroom tonight.
Yes,
right?
yes.
My wife
was one.
Right, she was one of them.
And they can fit. And they can fit good.
She was a special one.
A special they can fit good.
Yeah, I can tell you how that worked out. You know, she was at the top of the list always. But when I was leaving home tonight, she told me, be sure to extend my congratulations to Pat on his achievement, on this great, you know, award and honoring that he's receiving. So I want to make sure I do that, because if I do not do that, I may end up having to go look for a place in High Street.
But the house not there again, eh?
Oh, well, I know.
No, but very instrumental to just before Dice coming is a lot of people do not know about Naked Feet. They possibly hear the name and look at, Pat Ghost team and the level of writing. When the quality of what you guys brought to the writing, the ability of Calypso in Dominica. It really stands out. So that means Naked Feet was something special. Now, I witnessed Naked Feet giving the mighty swinging stars, and people may not know that, a run for their money. And to me, possibly was, to both bands from the city, but Naked Feet had something. Well, maybe the girls. Maybe the girls.
That was part of it. We had the following. But I let me just say something. Good night, Norman Lita. Swinging Stars, of course, we respected Swinging Stars to the utmost. We played with them. But I can remember one Christmas, Swinging Stars was supposed to play with Groovers. But when we spoke to Groovers and we understand what Groovers was going to get out of their jam, because Groovers was popular. I can tell you, Young Groovers was very popular. And, we went to negotiate with Swinging Stars too. They wanted us to play. But in negotiating, when Norman said 60-40, I said, okay, 60 for us and 40 for. And that couldn't go down well. That couldn't go down well. But we had our plan. And as popular as Grotto was, going to Fort Young was the thing, because Fort Young had that floor, the whole ambiance. So we connived with Groovers and we decided we're going to leave them there. Groovers joined Naked Feet and we went to Fort Young. In those days, the dance was $5, I believe. We went to Fort Young for $10, and we did Kibosh Swinging Stars. In those days, that's how popular the two popular bands were, Naked Feet and Groovers, and we were able to do that. I don't think no other band could do that in those days. You had Weedies and most of those bands,
Explosions, Ignition.
Yeah. They were just bands. They were just bands. But Naked Feet again, I believe, Tim Durant, Glenn John. Oh, well,
no, you must have got Glenn John.
While Pat was
Glenn John was like a Dice.
While
at the time.
No, I only say that Dice, Elvis Presley.
Yes, man, Glenn Dice.
Yes.
Also, Linford John actually joined your guys.
He came after. But Glenn John, we used to play on tourist ships. When they come in, go there on the night and play. And Glenn would have white people carrying him out,
Yes.
We went to Guadeloupe, and Glenn John would have people going crazy, so much so that Fitzroy used to follow us everywhere we go, since their band were not playing, because of Glenn John. When Glenn John hit the stage, nobody knew us again, It's only Glenn.
No, but even the year with Tower of Love,
yeah.
Glenn was really like the superstar on the truck. With that, all you could see Dice was people, Rosso people.
And Pat songs he was singing?
Yeah, Tower of Love.
Yeah.
There was a band, there was a song, and there's a. It's a kind of spooge John was playing. It was spooge calypso. It was spooge calypso. If you listen to the song, it's a kind of spooge song, But my brother on the road, it was just something else. Now, little boy.
Well, them days there, I know I don't born yet.
There is.
Glenn John was the person, if he had sung calypso, he could probably have a thousand cups. Yeah. When he go on stage, everybody.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think Hurricane David it was. Basically.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Well, what I can add to that though, while listening to those that was before me, I would say that Pato, as you say, born to write, and he's been, and as his part of his family said, that since 12 years he doing it while they was taking fun, they was kicking off on him, but he was doing it. So that means he really born with it. You cannot take it out. It's just there, and you don't know what to do with it, but you just have to bring it out. Now, he started to bring it out, and then he can bring it out through different people, seeing that the voice wasn't all that, as he said. Then you see it moving from one level. So I can see levels of Pat of Pato, that people was observing throughout the times, but never really take it in the way that they should take it. And we really should take note of that for that not to happen to us as a nation, as a people. Because right now we're going through a process in life where the young people, you can see that is what they are lack in is lyrical content. It have some of them that have, like I would big up Shelly, because it has some of them that are really trying their best to bring some. But if you look at because for Labor Day, while I was in New York, you would see some of the guys from St. Kitts or different Caribbean countries, they would take the rhythm of the Nasty Business songs, and sing something else on it that have more lyrical vibe that the people can dance to, and the people enjoying that bad. So I can see that our youth now, we kind of need, because we love music and we into music. When I was in Montserrat, the guy say, well, we need a guitarist and we have to go St. Martin and see if we get one. I was like, what? If you was in Dominica, you get too much guitarists.
Yeah.
So we have music in our thing that Dominica is concerned. They say Calypso and Soca is Dominica. You have guys like Ra that was coming after maybe Pato and them, that was still, I consider, a nice creator of.
I was born in Naked Fit.
So you can
I
see,
know,
and you can see the style, because I had one little toy for her, and I could see that I am very observant to her. You can see that the guys of the past had a type of discipline when it comes to word and understanding and selling it out there that the guys of now don't really care about, but it is needed desperately in our Dominican society where music is concerned. So Pat and his greatness in music, in the writing, plus Mr. Sir on my side, and Ghost and the other people that can do it. There's still something to be done. I don't know how it's going to start. We should live with that vibes with Pat and how we honoring him. I know it's the 17th honoring, but this one there, I know this one gonna go down like the only one, maybe. I don't know. But we really need to take that and take the lyrics, because our lyrics, something need to be done, because we have too much greatness in the music, and the lyrics is kind of
but guys, you see, the young people don't read. But tell you, we used to read a lot, and if you want to write, you have to read.
And share
you have
books.
to know
You
words.
didn't have Facebook
You
and
have to
TV.
have-
No, but you must read it.
Ghost,
No, but we still like to read.
Wallace, let me just cut in there a little bit. We have to come to wrap at some point, right? I know the conversation is great. I mean, we could do this all night. We have one of the young Calypsonians I wanted to bring in. I think he's on the line, JD, and then after that, I want to bring Caressa and Hunter and Zed into the conversation as we get to wrapping up. So let's take JD, and then we can go over after that to Caressa and Hunter and Zed. JD, you there?
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Can you hear me? All right.
We hear you
Good
very well.
evening. Good evening, Mr. G, and good evening to everybody on the panel. Big up King Dice and everybody else, Wadix. Congratulations to you, Mr. Pat Aaron, on this award. And I think that is very timely and very, it's very important that we recognize a man like Pat. Now, Pat was introduced to me at a very young age. Not as Pat, but as a musician. My father had a record of one of Pat's albums, a musician album. I see that Rastaman on the record and whatnot. And one of my favorite songs on that record was Rumors. Rumors was a song. Each verse tackled a different issue. But he was talking about he being overseas and coming back down to Dominica. So, and he hearing rumors up there. And he want to know if those rumors are true. And the way he went about telling his story in each verse, it just marveled me. Yeah, and that is one of the songs of Pat that always stuck to me because that is because that is one of the songs that was on that album that my father always used to play. Yeah, even with strumming his guitar, he used to sing some of the songs. So that was my first introduction to Pat, and it gave me an insight at a very young age into how to write calypso, because of the love of the way he went about telling his story and the way he came down to the punchline. Like, for example, in one of the verses where he was talking about he has a woman in Dominica, but it is rumored that she's with a police. And then he said, "But look, me musician, I coming down. Tell me what's going on." And the punchline is, "If you don't marry by February, police in trouble with me." When I hear that thing, man, I say, what? But I just marvel at, yo. Yeah. So I would just marvel at the way he went about telling the story and getting to the punchline. And those things, from a young age, they interested me. So fast forward to the early 2020s when Dice was introduced to the scene. All those times, I in Calypso, every year I watching or listening on the radio from elimination down to the final show. Even before Dice was came to the scene. Now, when Dice was introduced, Dice and I must be around the same age group. I started taking a keener interest because I said, "Boy, look at the young man doing his thing." And I think a lot of young people then started to take a keener interest in Calypso. And that was the work of Pat. Dice was the messenger, yes, but Pat was the man behind the thing that telling you, that say, the man behind the words then. Yeah, so I was influenced by Dice. Every year I would try to write a calypso when the season coming out. Try it. But my shyness would prevent me from from actually trying to go on the stage. I finally overcome that in 2013, 2014. Yeah, I tried the thing with China Man. So Pat had an influence on me from the early days, from my early days, as far as I can remember, like listening to music and so on. Now, that is his influence in terms of, oh yes, another thing about his writing. If you listen to every one of Pat's songs, there's always some type of moral message in his songs. And that is something I try to emulate. There is always some type of moral message, and you can tell by listening to his words that he's a man of morality, a man of integrity. And that is a very important thing. Like I hear Dice talking about the lyrics nowadays, and you see they lack so much. There's no moral code in the lyrics nowadays, you know. Yeah. So, Pat. Another thing about Pat, I remember in 2019, I wrote that song "Get Out," and that was campaign year because 2019 December was election. When I wrote that song, there was some meeting, I can't remember what it was, between the bridges, I think CCM organized, and Pat had to introduce me because I was a guest artist on that thing. I was coming to sing Get Out. And when Pat introduced me, Pat said that is the biggest song for the year. When I heard that, I said, "Boss, you see how humble that man is? The man maybe write 20, 25 songs for the year, and he chose my own as the biggest song." So that is a humble man. That is a man that's telling you, yo, I'm not too big to admit, yo, that is quality, you know. So that is one. That's another thing I learned from Pat, and it's just and if you listen to his lyrics tell you the type of man he is, because he has never strayed from bringing out the message you want to bring, and every time there is the morality in it, there is the integrity in it, and that is the thing we need to learn going forward for up and coming artists and people trying to do, you know, whether it's calypso, whether it's bouillon, whether it's whatever type of music you're doing, you always have to you have a responsibility to society then, and that has to show in your music. I think that is the greatest thing I have learned from Pat. Yeah, thank you. Thanks
a lot, JD. You're in from the younger generation. You know, I'm going to go over to Caressa and Hunter and Zed Lloyd in a minute, but I just wanted to let Lambie know that while they're having the conversation, I would want you to try to reach out to Shaky and Roy Shillingford, because they're standing by for a call from us, and as we go along, we'll try to take them in. Whichever one you have first, you'll make me a sign. Hopefully we can take a few more calls from the public, because people are still sending me all kind of messages saying they want to call, but we're not taking calls. So we may have to go back and take a few more calls before we wrap it up here tonight, Wadix. So right now, let me go over to the Caressa and the Hunter and Zed Lloyd. Caressa, what are your thoughts? I mean, in your final thoughts coming out of this thing here tonight?
Well, I mean, sitting here listening to the entire conversation, I mean, it's just more than phenomenal. I mean, 2 hours to talk about Patty Run certainly is not enough. And of course, we understand the time limitation and everything else. But I think tonight for me was also a learning experience, because many times you get yourself wrapped up in the competition, and you never really take time to know the people who are really behind those compositions. You compete with the artists on stage, and sometimes you don't even know who wrote the songs. But listening to the conversation tonight, I mean, Pat Aaron is more than just a writer, more than just a musician. And Pat Aaron is a person that Dominican youth should really try to emulate. A person, a father figure. I mean, when I listen to the testimony of Janice, I mean, I've never really met Janice, but just listening to her in terms of the relationship growing up as a young lady and the level of respect somebody like Pat Aaron had for her, I mean, that to me was extremely touching. The fact that he was also a leader. I didn't know all about leading these bands into Trinidad and Barbados. You know, the fact that he was a mentor, an advisor. I mean, when I listened to Hunter articulate that Pat did not only write for the artists, but he actually took care of them in terms of ensuring that there is a full package provided for them. I mean, that made me see him totally different. So really and truly, I mean, we can all compete, but at the end of the day, we have to understand there is something more than just the person who writes the material. And even listening to Wadix, when he outlined the number of crongs and 20 crongs, 5 road march, 2 3-peats, and of course 2 doubles. And Wadix, if you were correct, if you remember rightly, I remember I came from Australia in 2000 and I think 2015, because Dice was on to winning that 3-peat, and I think I ended up taking the crown at that time. But I know that to me that was one of the biggest competitions, because Dice would certainly won that 4 crown in a row. So I want to again continue to congratulate Pat. Pat and I have been very, very respectful of each other. There wasn't any time that I would call Pat that he did not answer or he did not pay attention or maybe even give an advice. I also want to congratulate Q95 and the committee for putting this activity together. I think, as Dice indicated earlier, that is something that, other agencies or organizations or even the government should look at, and to see how, to what extent we can continue to honor someone who has contributed so well to the cultural landscape of this country. So finally, gentlemen, congratulations. Pat, I think you deserve every bit of it. And I can tell you up front, although my good friend Dice has produced some of the greatest calypsos in Dominica, but my favorite of all is the Gallant Bottle Woman. That is my favorite calypso from Pat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that, Garessa. Appreciate that. Hunter, I don't know whether you're still with us. Yes, you're still with us, and you still look like you look like you're 25 years old, man. You look bright and energetic. Let me hear your final thoughts as we try to come to a wrap in a while. You're unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you, sir. The secret behind that is you never stress. Because you're not the one who created the war, who started the war in Ukraine. So you just have to be happy, treat the people around you nice, treat people with love, and then smile a lot.
You see, the ghost had told me the same thing, but I didn't believe him. So now you tell me it's corroborated.
Smile a lot, You hold no grudges and you just live life, enjoy. Yeah, once again, I want to thank Pat for his contribution. And tonight I learned a lot. Pat has been in the business for a very, very long time. I've been helping to shape the lives of people, helping to bring out Dominican music in such an authentic way, and kudos to Pat. You touch so many lives in a positive way. But I didn't even know. You wrote for people in and out of state, and Pat has always been very humble, very respectful, and just I admire that about this guy. Always cool and calm, So kudos to you, my brother, and long live. Words are not enough to express my gratitude. Blessed to you and your family.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Zed, what about you? Any thoughts?
Mr. G, Pato boy. You know the thing go. Mr. G, I would like to. I think Pat gives us something that we can label it good citizen, and that's one of my favorite songs. And I think I would like to leave that with us tonight. I think we as a nation, sometimes our inspiration has to come from our icons, Sometimes they come from the lowest level, sometimes they come from, but I think Pat brings us a package of good citizen. And I think we as a nation, we're at a juncture when there is a vacuum sort of feeling in terms of good citizens. And it's not that they're not good citizens, but good citizens who are willing to write, good citizens who are willing to speak, good citizens who are willing to stand up. And so I want us tonight to in honoring Pat, to look at ourselves. And ask ourselves how we can be more Pat-like, how we can be more that good citizen, that one who always, no matter the challenge, stands up for what is right and what is just and what is, righteous. Pat is not a big spiritualist, but his example has been one of spirituality. And so that is what I would like us to emulate tonight, for us to move beyond this conversation of spirit in Dominica, this conversation of belief, and come into this conversation of action, for us to stop hiding so much behind Jesus Christ and be Christ. I think I would like us to take that from Pat tonight. He talks about it a lot when we talk, to become the real thing. Become the real thing. Let us try to be more part-like and play our part instead of just sitting on the sidewalk and expecting somebody else to do the right thing. We need some good citizens. That is what I want to leave tonight. It's short and I want to do the personal, but it is what it is. God bless my brother. You know how it is. It's long from her. Yeah.
Thanks so much for that. But I have Shaky on the line. I think we have Shaky on the line. Lambi, if he's on the line, could you put him on? Shaky, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
Well, I'm probably not half as good as you are, but working on it.
That's a good thing.
Thank you.
Let me add my 2 cents about Pat Aaron. You know, Pat is truly a great musician, and congratulations to him on his honor. And I wish him greater things. Let me say that I first became acquainted with Pat when I was like 12 years old. He was at the time in a band called Naked Feet. And then they added brass and became Naked Feet with Brass. And they were really and truly a fantastic band. But before I even go into all of that, I want to recognize the fact too that Pat comes from a great musical family. His uncle, Mr. Manny Aaron of Colliho, had the first band in Colliho, and for Fetla St. Pierre and everything we had in Colliho, it was always Band Manny. Now that was Pat's uncle. And then from that came other great singers like Agnes Aaron and Desmond Aaron, who won the DBS song competition several times. Talking about Naked Feet, Pat's sister used to sing with Naked Feet. So Pat is really surrounded by a whole great big musical family, and that's a good thing. Going back to when I first encountered Pat and he was very Naked Feet, I had a band myself called Wax Power Vibration out of St. Joseph. And we were doing a gig and needed a bass amp. A bunch of schoolboys had no money. We needed a bass amp. And Pat graciously let us use the amp from Naked Feet. One of our guys plugged the amp directly into the electrical output. Now, you know, back then you had to have a transformer for this equipment, which came from the U.S. islands. And we blew the bass amp. Then I was so scared, like, what Pat gonna do to me? I blew his bass amp. Pat took it very, very cool. I mean, he didn't yell, he didn't scream, he didn't do anything. He just said, okay. And I really appreciate Pat for that he didn't, you know, yell at this kid who had caused his bass amp to blow. Now, from there, my next big hooking up with Pat was when he wrote for Zay, real name Eric James. And that's where I saw that Pat stood up to power, like he's doing even now. Because Pat wrote several songs for Zay. 2 of them really stick in my mind. One was called Clean Up Campaign. The other one, Grave Digger. The whole day, all night is grave. I dig in 1 4, and he goes on. And then he'll put Austin down in the hole to try it. And Clean Up Campaign was what Zay came up with around Independence time in 1978, when Zay said, I'm not singing in this. I'm on a clean up campaign to clean up Dominica. I'll point out that this earned me, as president of the Calypso Association, it earned me a phone call from the office of the Prime Minister. They were complaining. Well, he wasn't Prime Minister yet, it was still Premier, became Prime Minister after independence. But they called to complain that we had this song that was saying all these bad things about Dominica. But that's what the Calypso Association was formed for, is to stand up for the rights of Calypsonians to sing what we think should be sung. So that was just one experience with songs that Pat has written. And Pat has continued to do that. Over the past 2 days, I have been bombarded with one of Pat's new songs, Bring Money. I love that song, Bring Money. And I look forward to listening to Zay perform it. I'm not Zay, to Dice perform it. I say listening, I don't know if you guys know, but I am blind. I don't see anymore, but I have good ears, so I listen. And so I look forward to listening to Dice perform that song, Bring Money. Again, it just shows what Pat is all about. I'll say one more thing about Pat. I remember one night that he made my heart swell with pride. I was driving in New York City, listening to this radio station that plays Caribbean music, and they announced the #1 song in New York for the week. It was a song called Animal Farm, being sung by Dice, and it was revealed that Pat Aaron had written that song. And I was just so excited Pat Aaron had the #1 song in New York City that week, and that made me very, very glad. So once again, congratulations to Pat. I wish him very, very well. Congratulations to his musical family out there in Collyho. I was born in Collyho myself. So congratulations to all the Aarons, and congratulations to Dominica in general.
Thanks a lot, King Shaky. Pat, I guess these are your boys in your days, right? All these guys there. But everybody keeps talking about Naked Fit. Somebody said to me, you need to play the song Tower of Love. So Lambi, I don't know if you have that song there. If you have it queued up, let's hit it. Tower of Love. Let's go with it.
Someone took the light and brightened the whole wide world. And I see all you people's got left for cover like hell. I've been smoking again. I'm outside the top of the world. And I am the builder, the doctor, the thief, and the paper man. Everybody on a new road. I've got the whole number on the jealous road. Let's build a tower of love for people like you. I'm gonna teach you to love and love the world again. Yeah. Now I am the builder with the shoes on my trade. All eyes the world that wants me now, and the last ray of gold. I look for brighter faces. I smile to their faces, and I hope I'll be little longer to finish my work. Everybody's leaving on a new road. I've got the whole world now.
Awoken at the feet Dominica grown to prosper in culture, music, and calypso. Heart and soul, I organize all festivities for the selfish one to come to take, not to give. But these people show society love and respect. People who don't care about anyone. Even Calypsonians they used to look down on. If me open up the gate, they see the light well lit. I fill them with laughter. They pay me with cash. They don't know how hard I working while they're sleeping. They don't.
It's my favorite Pat song, man.
All right, so Kelly the Ghost, you have to tell me what you think about that song. Why
Yes,
is it not working?
Yeah, because the same thing I said earlier on, you know, while all of us playing the man songwriting music, you know, I will tell you the greatness of Pat. Yeah? When I made, and I must say good night to you, Robin. Robin was basically his conduit between New York and Dominica. Everything that happened in, he would call Robin. And I can remember when I made, I say, let us pray. I didn't think anybody could have had written a better song that day than Let Us Pray. And he called Robin and he asked Robin what that hit in. And Robin tell him, well, Goose have a song there, Let Us Pray. And you know what Pat came up with to counter it? Keep the candles. Yeah, and I say yes, that would take me because nothing, I couldn't believe anything could come that year with Let Us Pray, because Let Us Pray had the melody, it had the everything you could, and then you just hear
Keep the candles
keep the candles burning.
Yeah.
You know, so
You know, well, I think we have Roy Shillingford on the line. I believe Roy is the original founder member of the Naked Fit. Roy, how are you doing?
Well, I'm just listening, and I have to say something special about my partner.
Go right ahead.
I have to start by saying that he's a very strong fellow, and that a miserable fellow in Naked Fit. And Pat was Mr. Patient with Roy Shillingford. The only time I saw Pat with his patient is when he made that song Christophine, because he was telling a particular Californian, and he, while he practiced his studying, and Pat, I knew and always respected as a writer, a musician, and what took a long time to come out tonight was a leader. Pat was behind that band, they call it. Pat went to the extent one time by giving me brand new schedule just to keep me quiet and get me more involved with the band. So he apart from him showing his leadership qualities, Pat was a true friend. Yeah? And Pat, I don't know how he got the gift, but he had it. He could just sit down and write. I mean, when you think of Pat writing 20, 30 songs in 1 year, and sometimes he do it in 2 months. Yeah? So it's in fact a pleasure. And I'm happy to know that Pat has been honored tonight as a good friend. Bro, stay strong. I realize that there are a lot of people that need to make some contributions, so I'll make mine very short because what I have to say, Ghost, team, and the rest have gone ahead, along, and said. So the most I can say, bro, I owe you an apology for being stubborn.
All right, Roy. Thanks a lot for that. You know, Wadix, I don't think we can just close the show without giving Lambi the opportunity. Just take at least 3 or 4 more calls because I'm pretty sure there's people standing by want to connect with us tonight. So Lambi, I want you to give the people the numbers and see if there's some people who are still awake who want to make a call and say something to Pat.
Oh, yes, they are awake. And the numbers are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257, and 305-432-9624. And we already have a call on the line. Caller, please go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, this is Smokey. I want to say good night to everybody. And I want to thank Q95 for doing this for my very good friend, Pat Aaron. I respect Pat Aaron a lot. Pat Aaron is a big brother to me. He's big up.
Yeah, man,
Pat
big up.
To me. Pat Aaron never wrote a college show for me. And the reason being is in SMA days, you know, I guess the prolific writer in the days was NC, just write for Element. And I wanted to beat Element, but I didn't know Pat at the time, you know. So everybody would tell me, get Pat Aaron to write for you. But he said I got Hicks to write for me. And I was first runner-up in SMA. Then when I made it to the finals, I remember in 1984, we're backstage trying to make it to the finals, the semi-finals at Ararat House of Culture. And I look in next to me, they haven't called my name, they haven't called Pat Aaron's name, they haven't called Lily and Spider. And next thing I know, Pat Aaron and I made it to the finals the same year. And you know, I was a rookie at the time, and looking at myself, the first time I make it to the finals, I make it to the great Pat Aaron. Ever since, we had a bond, a real strong bond. And what a lot of people don't know about Pat Aaron, and somebody mentioned it, I think Lapo, Roy Shillingford mentioned it. Pat Aaron is a true leader because I see Observer was on, Ian Jackson was on, Ghost is on. They were presidents of the association, the Calypso Association. But what they don't know, and nobody talks about it, is in the 80s, Pat Aaron led us to take over Calypso Association from COC. Nobody talks about that from the Carnival Organizing Committee. We had meetings after meetings with Alvin Booley. And Alvin Booley, basically they were telling us that we were not responsible enough to run our own show. And Pat Aaron and NC at the time started pushing. And we had our first association. I have to tell all you that. We had our first Calypso Association. NC was the president, Pat Aaron was the vice president. But the way I look at it is those two guys were co-presidents. We had Rabbit as the treasurer, Trinidad as the secretary. I was the secretary treasurer, and somebody mentioned Robin name. Robin was the PRO. We got Randy Aaron, Pat Aaron brother. Pat Aaron got his brother to give us our first Calypso house in High Street. All right, and then we had meetings where we would bring all, because Pat Aaron was like that. He wanted to include all the Calypsonians throughout the whole country, not us that were competing in Roseau alone, but throughout the whole country, like Miko. And I remember there was a guy who always used to get epilepsy, but no matter what, he used to come to the meetings, and every time he got epilepsy in the meeting, Pat Aaron have a lime for him to bite, right? And that is how Pat Aaron was as a leader. They also talk about his house in High Street. Pat Aaron house was our house, an open door. We used to go there after meetings, and Pat Aaron cooking a joint. And I say, Pat, what you cooking? By lentils and some other things. Say, where the meat? I say, I don't eat meat, boy. And that's how it was. Somebody also talk about his tent, the tent that he has now. But Pat Aaron had his tent before in Jam City. You know, because when those that couldn't make it to Grotto, to Swinging Stars tents and stuff, Stardom tents, we used to go to Jam City and do our own thing, you know. Pat Aaron, Lofty, Emmanuel, and them man used to welcome us, you know. The other thing about Pat Aaron that I think we need to really take seriously, as a Dominican, man, Pat Aaron is a genius. We know that just the other day when I hear Wadix release Dice song, Bring Money, I called Pat. And we had a conversation on that song, and I tell Pat, Pat, nobody ever contact you in the government to give you one of the highest awards in Dominica. He tell me no. He tell me, boy, Smokey, Q95 doing something for me. And I said, I applaud that Q95, I really do. But I think they need to, it's about time we wake up. We need to give Pat his flowers now. He's a Dominican that have a creativity that
that we haven't seen in a long time. And he's not just a calypso writer. Pat is a writer. Calypso is social commentary, and Pat is a social commentator. Period. This is a man, and nobody should be afraid of a man like that. This is a man that talks his truth, and nobody should be afraid of a man like that. Okay? So, that's my contribution for a man that Pat have eras. I hear Kelly and them talk about Pat as with Naked Feet, and I hear the youngsters talk about Pat of today, like Dice and these guys. But Pat is a guy that have eras. I was in Pat era because I compete against Pat Aaron. And I used to literally compete against Pat Aaron, still know all Pat Aaron songs. Like that song They Don't Know. They Don't Know came out when we had just taken over Calypso Association. And a lot of nonsense was being spoken about him in Roseau by other Calypsonians. And then Pat Aaron get pissed off one day and came out with that song. And if you notice in that song, he even talk about, he put lines in there because when you mess with Pat will hit you hard. Christofino Toa Fueya. He put that line in there on purpose. So whoever know what they were saying about him, he hit them. He hit them. And that's how Pat operated all the time. Integrity-wise, that man have a lot of integrity, as I tell you, because, Pat never wrote a song for me, which regretfully, Pat, because Pat always told me if he wrote for me, he would crown me. And I know, but NC is my blood, so, NC, Puppet Calypsonians was written by NC in those days, and I competed against Pat. You know what I mean? But despite the fact that he never wrote a song for me, I tell you, I always respected his integrity. When anything he did, the songs he wrote, his leadership of taking the association from COC, anything he did it with a lot of passion and a lot of integrity and a lot of truth to everything he did. All right, so that's my contribution. And Pat, I'm happy you're getting your flowers tonight. Love you, man. Cool.
Thanks a lot for that. I hope you all know that while you all are talking, Pat taking notes, he might have a song by the end of the night. So anyway, I have to take the two ladies up for the final word before we go to Pat. But before that, we have something queued up somebody sent in that I wanted to ask Lambi to run it. And then I will go to the two ladies, Janice and Dr. Simone Matthew, to do their final words. Maybe Dr. Matthew, when you come on, you might want to again just, a little shout out to those folks who are still with us, hanging in there with us on the social media platforms. So Lambi, let's run what you have, and then we'll go to the two ladies.
I have a strict mama. She's the most serious mother in the universe. My robust looking mama. Any problem, anywhere, you can call her first. But she too robust for me. She controlling all the money. Imagine she does control daddy. By the time I done sing this melody, you sure to see why our whole life is misery. Can't you see times are changing? The harsh kind of laws you making in the house will drive us crazy. Respect we must have for you, mommy. But the wrong things we see, we must say, so that things could go right in the family. Discipline we know, we need to build the future. But that's no reason you should go on like a monster. If I had a choice to stay with mama or live Dominica, I take it on a pui to Africa. Anywhere, not here. Bambe, bade, bede, 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 bede.
All right. So now that song is played, Caressa, I suspect that you can do an a cappella thing there. Because I know you're a guy that can come up with stuff just like that. I mean, feel free. If you want to do a little something before we wrap with Pat tonight, maybe you can do a little something, give us a little thing, put something together, and then let's wrap up your final thing with a little thing for Pat. How about that? Are you with me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah, you're just thinking about it.
Yeah, maybe I can take it after Simon.
Oh, okay, okay. I'll give. Simone, are you with us?
Yes,
Okay.
I am. So
Excellent.
Caressa, escape plan.
No, Teresa is inspired. He's inspired by you. So he's looking for divine inspiration before he sings.
Oh, okay. That works.
So Simone, then maybe your final words, and you can maybe shout at a couple of the folks that are still hanging in there with us.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, certainly. So what a wonderful tribute. And I know I'm looking at the time and I can't believe it's over 3 hours. The time went by so very quickly. And we touched on so much that is great about Pat. But we must also remember the important role that Pat Aaron has played in elevating Calypso. Because we will recall not too long ago, we had a lot of calls, people calling in saying that Pat Aaron and Dice should take a break from the competition because Dice keeps winning and winning and winning, and it's time for somebody else to win. And we are so grateful that they did not take a break from the competition, because look at how it has elevated the standard of Calypso in Dominica. So I just want to put this on record, as well as we're having this wonderful tribute to Pat Aaron this evening. And I just want to thank all the listeners and all the viewers on Facebook and YouTube for being here. They've been with us for the entire 3 hours and still going strong. And we want to thank them for all the wonderful tributes that they have paid to Pat Aaron. Pat, maybe if you get a chance, you can log on to the Facebook and see all the comments that have come your way. But let's just take a couple of comments as we get ready to wind down the program. We have David Joseph, and he says, greetings, salutations, and a warm, pleasant good evening. I wish to extend heartfelt congratulations to Mr. Pat Aaron for being the 17th recipient of the Kudos to Our Heroes Award, a humble individual who over several decades has given so much of himself in service to country and people by way of Calypso art form, a prolific writer and musical genius who has selflessly worked to advance music as well as culture. He is a class by himself. So thank you for that, David. Let's just grab a couple more comments before we leave. Frederick Barron, there can be no question about Pat Aaron's brilliance as a writer. His ability to craft music to suit the artist is unparalleled, and his commentary on issues is never wrong. Thank you for that, Frederick Barron. Everlasting Peter, greetings to everyone. Congratulations, my brother Pat Aaron, on the occasion of your latest highly deserved accolade. May God bless you. Continued success. Now at Scotland, great to see you now. Thank you for being here. Let's just take a couple more real quick before we leave. Glenda Miller says, excellent writer, sending you flowers, Pat Aaron. Tessa Cuffey, what brilliance this man, Pat Aaron, has. When you are given a talent by the Almighty, no one can take it away. Marcelin Edwards, Pat Aaron is indeed the greatest lyrical writer of Calypso. The man is an innate Calypso genius of many crowns. He deserves to be crowned into the Hall of Fame. Thanks, Pat, and congratulations. And let's take one more. I saw Alvin Thomas also commented, so let's just take his comment. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Sandra Norris, Georgette Henry, Shirley Phillip, Chris Boogie is here. Davidson Lloyd, let's take Davidson. Congrats to Pat, a true hero. Blessings always. My all-time favorite is Attributes of Good Government. So let's scroll all the way down. Marvelyn Pascal, what a man. Pat, you are indeed a man. Working with you at Mass Camp for a couple years, I must say you are indeed the maestro of Calypso. No one can touch you. So guys, thank you so much for being here, for all your wonderful accolades that you paid to Pat. And Alvin Thomas, congratulations to you, Pat. Long deserved and well earned. You are a good citizen and true Dominican patriot. So again, Pat, all these accolades are going out to you this evening. and it is so very well deserved. Congratulations again, one more, Amanda Griffith. I appreciate what you're doing at this time, but I just want to know, has the Calypso Association or Cultural Division of Dominica Festival, Wachima it, ever give Pat Aaron his flowers? Have they honored him in any way for all he has accomplished for Calypso industry? A very great question. So thank you for that question. And thank you everyone for being here. Niambi Mate is here. Congratulations to Pat on a fantastic career and continued contributions to the art form. So Mr. G, we could be here for another 2 hours, but again, we just want to wrap it up and say thank you. And Caressa, I hope I gave you enough time so you can you can do what you do.
Well, you know, there's so many more names, and I'm not even going to try to mention anymore because we'll be doing this all night.
Yes.
But just to give, I want to give Caressa a little bit more time. And I also, see if Hunter is still with us. Hunter is a genius at these things as well, at composing things on the go. Maybe if Hunter has a little inclination, he can probably come in and do a little thing for us to wrap up here tonight. It'll be a nice touch for it. So Hunter, if you're still with us and you want to do a little thing, see if you can compete with Caressa and make it better than his. Now, what I wanted to go before I go back to Caressa and Hunter, I wanted to go to Swinging Janice. I don't know if you are able to unmute your mic. Yes, you have. And so your final.
I have. Well, my heart is so glad tonight. My heart is just extremely glad because, you know, it's the Kudos for Heroes Committee that's honoring this great maestro. And as I indicated before, I'm hoping that the Prince Wadix is going to make sure that he's going to get all the other accolades that's coming, which is the big one. We are hoping that he can get his star on the Walk of Fame because, like we say, let's give the flowers while we are here. You know, not when you're gone. And so we are wishing that Pat stays with us for many, many years too, but we still just want to see him get his flowers. And I want to say good night to Tim and to Kelly as well. These were the men too. I was around for many years. So again, congratulations, Pat. And Caressa, we are just waiting to hear you sing.
Thank you so much, Janice. You know, the only reason I'm not going to ask Kelly to compete with Caressa tonight is because Kelly has a way sometimes of forgetting his lines. So that is the only reason why. Otherwise, I might have taken a chance and asked Kelly to do a little something. What do you say, Ghost? But you know, he's not the only person that's forgotten lines. That happened to our King Dicey too. So
that's part of the competition now, you know.
Exactly. Caressa. It happened to Caressa as well. I'm pretty sure it happened to Hunter as well. You know, so basically, I think the presentation is what is coming up shortly. We have to make up some presentations to guys on behalf of Pat. But before we do that, I want to go back to Caressa for his final remarks. Maybe you can put that in a little song for us. It really would be nice, a nice touch to end it with.
Well, Mr. G, tonight is the night for Pat. And we all must agree to that. The man helped to motivate us. Oh yes, he's a phenomenal genius. A writer per excellence. He's the best in the region. So let us raise our voice and sing hip hip hooray to the man who have us sitting here all this time. Pat, the musical genius.
Bravo!
I don't think Pat can write a song to top that right now. But Pat, you can't beat that.
No, because you see, make it sound like everybody's there, but I cannot write people around me. I have to write when I'm by myself.
Yes. Pat, before we go over to the presentations, you know, you've heard so much tonight. So many people have expressed their love and their appreciation for you. They've embraced you and they've given you the recognition in so many different ways. in ways that we never thought about when we started doing this program tonight. Give us your final thoughts on how you feel about the whole thing coming out of all of this that has happened tonight. All your friends around you, all your people all over the globe, they're with you tonight. Give us your final thoughts on this before we do the presentations.
Well, it's nice to know that you can be a hero without fighting any wars. You know, you can be a hero by just being yourself and doing the things you're inspired to do. I want to say thank you to everybody, Sister Janice, Caressa, you, Mr. G, Lambi, Zed, Kelly, Tim, Wadix, Dice, Bob, Hurricane, you know, NC, all these people are part. What I accept tonight is on behalf of all of them, especially my brother Randy, you know, because Randy had always let me stand on his shoulder to do my thing. So anything I do, he's half of it. And like I say, you know, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for what has been going on there. Because it was not an easy thing to bring all these people forward. In the Calypso business, I want to encourage JD. He's a very good writer himself, and he's writing not just for himself, but also writing for this young guy, Mighty D, who is working with him. And he's giving Mighty D as good an opportunity as he's giving himself. That is very good. I noticed too, there are a few other writers coming up, like Shelley. I find this young guy very good. He's extremely talented, and for a young guy too, so the floor is open for him. Trilogy. Like I have said to one of the people who spoke to me about his bouillon mixed with the Calypso. You know, I would tell people, let Calypso evolve like every other music, you know. So, like what I always say, and I told Trilogy once, he was on the food in Frampton, bless her memory, that he won the crown last year. And while a lot of people figure it was questionable, I too share some of that, but what I always say is, a Calypso competition is not like election. Election, the worst person can win an election. But the Calypso competition, if you're not the best, you have to be close to the best to win. So that means he's a very talented young man. To come from elimination to win the crown, nobody has done that before. He has something. He has something, because Calypso competition is not election. You have to be the best or one of the best to win. So it is my hope that, and I can see, not a hope again, because I can see the young people moving into Calypso. Part of it is due to Dice. His mark he has made in Calypso has opened a door for these guys to, and I want Dice to continue doing what he's doing. I want to talk about NC. NC is all of them are the greatest competitors, and Janice too. You know, Swinging Janice was when you put Swinging Janice under pressure and she come to fight. I'm telling you, you have to be good, because Janice. I have seen in Janice more of a fighter than any other Calypso I have seen. When she figure the odds against her and she comes out to fight, yes, she fights. And NC had that special at that too. Glenn John, my brother, right next to my heart, like Coach Kelly and Tim Durant. These guys, we were a band, but we were a family. We were a band of brothers. We shared everything from that for over 50 years, and we still get together. Hurricane, Calypso, and very close to my heart. Hurricane and I shared, and we continue to share today, a very strong bond. Just as I do now with Dice and Bob, Bupley of recent memory. Leona, all these people are part. If I'm successful, they help to make me successful. So I share everything with them. So Mr. J, thanks for everything. And I hope to live for a long time to continue my work like it says in the song.
Oh yes.
Thank you.
Well, we look forward to that. But as Sherwin gets ready to make the presentations, as he's getting organized, I wanted to ask Tim Durant. It's not like a vote of thanks for Naked Feet and for Pat, just to sum up, Tim, after you listened to Pat a while ago, the things that he mentioned, as Sherwin is getting organized, let's just sum up what he mentioned, because Pat is trying to send us a message right there. Remember that Trilogy is not the first guy to create that bridge between like another genre and Calypso. There was a young man called Dice. You know him?
Yes.
He used to
So
do-
after tonight, I think I know him a little better.
You know him a little better tonight. I remember him as a reggae artist.
Yeah, I remember actually, Mr. G, that I emceed a show many years ago. It was organized by one of the charity organizations. And there was a young man, who was slated to perform at that show. And at that time, he was known more as Denison Joseph. And I introduced him, right? And he did a reggae piece. And I said, "You see this guy? He's going to go places," right? I remember that. So I am extremely pleased to be sitting in Dice's company this evening, a man who has demonstrated, just as Pat is a brilliant writer and perhaps the best that Dominica has ever produced, so too Denison Dice Joseph is an extraordinary performer, you know? Perhaps one of the, in Calypso, in my view, the best that Dominic has produced, you know? So, in terms of Pat and what he has said this evening, I endorse totally the fact that we have to consider that Calypso has grown. Okay, that young people have, with the advent of Dice, young people have ventured into the art form, and it is beginning to manifest itself. As the years progress, we see. I heard Trilogy this morning, or was it yesterday? This morning, doing on an interview, making the very strong statement that look, Calypso, he loves Calypso, and it is something that he wants to contribute to. He also made the point that look, this idea of who you're replacing Calypso, is that he does not believe that this is true, because he thinks that, like as Pat mentioned, everything evolves. Music too has to evolve in the different genres of music, and therefore we can see that the people like Trilogy and Dice before him have come in and are bringing different elements, into the evolution of the Calypso music. And what this is doing is it is attracting a broader audience to Calypso. And so we must not give in to the notion that because it happened in other countries where other genres of music overtook Calypso and eventually, took control and Calypso went by the wayside, that in Dominica we must allow that to happen. I think we have to find a way to incorporate bouillon music into Calypso for the young people who are coming in without drastically changing the art form, and give the young people an opportunity to come in, make them feel that there's something in there that can attract them. And this is what we need to do. With regard to Pat Aaron, I mean, what can I say about Pat? I mean, every single thing that I heard this evening on the show, every single expression, every single sentiment that was expressed, I totally endorse that. But in addition to that, as somebody pointed out a little earlier on, Pat's music, his innate ability to write, is something, as Kelly mentioned, something that he was born to do. And also, something that I think our writers need to take on board is that what Pat sings, what Pat writes about, what is exposed in the music or the lyrics that Pat writes are basically Pat himself coming through his writing. So when Pat talks about, righteousness and justice and so on, this is Pat Aaron not just writing a song for somebody to sing, but expressing what he feels and how he thinks as an individual. And so this is what I think over the years that have come to understand and respect about Pat Aaron. He is a genuine, authentic, compassionate person with integrity, with honesty, and everything that he writes about is a portrayal of himself as an individual, as a person. Pat, I want to thank you for your influence on me and my life, and the generosity that you've shown, the kindness that you showed throughout your life when we lived together. You were like the father figure, if you will. You're not older than most of us. In fact, maybe by 1 year, nothing much. If you're older than any of us, but you were always the person that we looked up to in the group as a father figure. And I will always appreciate, the sense of responsibility, discipline, and the level of integrity that you displayed during the time we were together. And this continues to be the hallmark of your very existence as a human being. So thank you very much. And I'm hoping that Dominica will see the need to take advantage of what you still have to offer, because you said you're going to live, for a long time to come, to continue to do what you're doing. And so I'm hoping the country and other organizations like the Dominica Calypso Association can see the need to continue to tap into the resources that you have to offer in your capacity as a writer and this compassionate, intelligent, brilliant human being that you are. Thanks a lot.
Yes, and Tim, thanks a lot, Tim. As I transition over to Wadix, so we can do the presentations, I wanted to do something there, because somebody said earlier on that this young man called Zed was the young kid on the beach in the days of Naked Feet. I thought I would want to hear him a final word from him as I go to Wadix. So Zed, any final thoughts before I go over to Wadix to wrap it up and make the presentation?
Yeah, Mr. G, thanks for that. Boy, like I said, Pat, I learned from Pat by example at a very impressionable age. By example, I learned from Kelly and his brothers by example. And, that is what I would like us to take from Pat. Example. And I think at this moment in our culture and our history and our nation and where we are, I think more than anything else, we need good examples. And I think Pat is a good example, an excellent example of how we should live as human beings, how we should live as citizens in our country, how we should care for each other, how we should look out for each other, how we should speak against the wrong and, uplift the right, without fear, without favor. Pat acknowledges his enemy if the enemy is good, that's just him, and I think we need that in this country right now, where we can cross those divides. And what happened between Kelly and Pat there tonight is another good example of how we can come together, even after our patches of disagreements, and so I think there's a lot of example for us here tonight as a nation, and to the listeners. That is what I hope we can take out of there tonight. That sense of forgiveness and that sense of coming together and that sense of working together for a better future. My brother, thanks for the example that you showed me all life, always. I love you, Pato.
Welcome, bro. Love you too. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Zed. We're still one people on a small island, 300 square miles, just about 20 miles by 15 miles wide. Small. We're still one people, no matter what. We should always come together. Wadix, I want to go over to you, and you will do the presentations to DICE on behalf of you. Might want to stand and let Sherwin take some pics of you, because we did those pics for posterity. And so, Sherwin, you can take some of the pics of Wadix handing over the items to DICE for and on behalf of Pat. And while they're doing this, because Wadix is occupied, I have to just tell you the comment is that There's a plaque that is being handed over from Wadix to Dice for
But before that, Mr. G, and before I leave, it is my hope with all the writers that are here, some book will be in the honor of this great man, so that our children and our grand and our great grandchildren can read about this brilliant Dominican writer. Sometimes we do all these nice things, but then there's nothing tangible left so that our youth can follow on. I think if we could put all what we said and the tributes together in one book so that we can continue, especially now we are celebrating Black History Month. Years to come, our Black History will be on the topic Party Run. And secondly, Bouillon is already in Calypso. Most of the faster songs, especially those done by Cornell, already have a Bouillon influence. On behalf of the kudos to our hero, Pat Aaron, recognition and appreciation for lifetime achievement, Calypso songwriting, singing, and musician. So on behalf of the kudos to Heroes Committee, we would like to present to you the undisputed king of Calypso in Dominica, Denison King Dice Joseph, for your writer and on behalf of your writer, Pat Aaron.
Yes, and let's not forget also that he's the man who wrote the song and he's the man who sang the song Flowers. So tonight I think Wadix is going to hand
Also, we hope that you can once again
to Dice fun on behalf of Pat.
On the Kaiso philosopher, this envelope of our true appreciation and love of a brilliant Dominican son on behalf of the entire QFM family, on behalf of Dominica by extension. And it's just our way of saying we love and appreciate all what you have done for our 289 square mile gem of the world.
Yes, and this is the part I wanted to see. I wanted to see the flowers being handed over to on behalf of Pat. This is what the song says. You have to give the man his flowers.
Okay. Nice, that's for you. If I had my way, I make you sing Salam Alaikum, but it's not in charge.
Actually, I want to say thank you for having
me.
For the big man, original Pato. And I would like to also add to that Pato has somewhat of a humble spirit. Well, when they're making noise about him, he doesn't say nothing. He doesn't say, boy, we're not writing again next year. He just say, don't worry, that we're doing our work and we're doing our thing. So, Pato, big up and keep doing what you're doing right now. It's, I think it's Lagon Street Jam, which I am supposed to go and drop some more Pat songs on the street since long time. And Mr. G, thank you for testing my metal. That's the longest I've cheated in one area.
This is what Pat does to you, right?
That will happen. Thank you.
That's what Pat does to us. But Wadix, you mentioned that song. If I did not think it was going to give King Dice the advantage to win, maybe we'll run it. But it's a nice song. Everybody seems to love it. Maybe we might do it after the show. So thanks a lot, gentlemen. I want to thank you, Pat, especially for all that you have done and you're still doing, and I am sure that you'll continue to do. I want to thank Zed for being here, and Caressa and Hunter, and Janice and Simone and Lambi and everybody. I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and for Shaky and all the people and who called and who spoke on the phone, Ian and JG and Trilogy and Observer and everyone who was here tonight, and everyone on Facebook. Hundreds of people on Facebook tonight on various programs, on various platforms, hundreds of people on YouTube and Facebook, on Q95 Facebook, on Push Past 10 Facebook. So it really was a great night, Pat. I'm sure we could not have done this if you had not done all of that you had done. So you are the reason why we're here tonight and give us the opportunity to do what we've done tonight. Without you, this night could not have happened. And I think the testimony given by people like Zed and people like Janice tells us everything. And then I have to close by saying that I really truly appreciate that song that Caressa just made. I'm going to ask you to send me a copy of that, and I'll keep it for posterity, because he did it on the fly. That is the point. It's on the spur of the moment. And you know, when people do something like that, you have to cherish it. All right? So I appreciate that, Caressa. And I just want to take the opportunity to say everybody good night. I hope Sherwin took some good pictures that we can put up on the website. Zeb, take care, everybody. Caressa, take care. Hunter and Janice and Simone and everybody else who's been with us tonight. Everybody on Facebook, good night. On YouTube, good night. Take care, Lambi.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Everybody, thanks a lot.
All right, nice, Pat. We'll talk to you. Take care.
Congrats, Pat. Take care.
All right.
Okay, good night.
All right, good night, Lambi.